Hello and welcome to this very, very exciting Map Battle Madness 2022. My name is Guy and I will be your host tonight as we watch two map makers battle it out over the next 3 hours as they desperately try to make a map as good as humanly possible, using DGNFOG of course, but to the parameters and the specs that you have set out. That's right, you are going to be voting for the type of map that our contestants are going to be making tonight. You are going to be voting for the general outline of the map, as well as every 30 minutes. You're going to be voting for new stuff to be added to their map throughout the entire evening. It's absolutely insane. Now, last year I was one of the contestants participating against the winner, Till, and I have to say it's absolutely insane when you are on the other side of this whole countdown, because literally every 30 minutes something is changing and you have to add it to your map. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to get through tonight. So, firstly, welcome to all of you for joining us. Now, before we get any further, some very important things. Firstly, you are going to be voting on the maps tonight, so I ask that you have your fingers ready on your keyboards. You're going to be throwing some random numbers at me a little bit later on in this evening so that we can design this map by community vote and chaos, our favorite combinations. And so bear that in mind. Also, if you have any questions for our contestants, any questions at all relating to map making, of course, ask them about the air velocity of a fully laden African swallow is not appropriate. But if you ask them about why they're including coconuts in their map, well, that is. So if you have questions for our contestants, put the word question in caps lock in front of your question so that I can see it. I've got a whole bunch of screens open here as I'm busy trying to control the stream tonight, and I need to be able to see your questions, so put the word question in front of that in caps lock. Now, you should, and we hope that you do, go and vote for these maps once they are done. Now, over the course of 3 hours tonight, they will be making their maps, and at the end of the show, at the end of 3 hours, those maps are then submitted to you from tomorrow, basically. Once the show's over with, they've got to upload the maps and make them ready for you. But you can then vote on those maps. Now, there's a whole bunch of criteria that you will be looking at whilst voting for these maps, and you will find out what those things, those criteria are later on in the show. But if you want to go and get ready to start voting, you'll find that on dungeonfog.com/mapbattlemadness. You can go and check that out. So from tomorrow, you can vote for your favorite map. Voting closes just before the show next week on Thursday, the 28th, which is at the same time as today's show, where we will reveal who you have voted for to be the righteous winner and title holder of the Map Battle Madness Champion 2022. So a lot rides on you. That's right. Hey, all the power. You have all the power. Isn't that wonderful? Now, we need to talk about some rules very, very quickly in terms of this entire process. And I've got the rules right here, as a matter of fact. They're going to hide me a little bit, so I'm going to be sort of peeking around and over the edges of them saying, do you see the rules over there? I see the rules over there. So they're not allowed to clone any existing maps whilst they are making their maps. They're not allowed to use any blueprints. Not that I can see how they would actually use blueprints, because, well, they don't know what the map is yet. We haven't decided, so that's going to be interesting. And they're not allowed to have any custom assets or textures that they have made. This is strictly you use what was made, and you'll be grateful for it. Then no pre-built room or prop templates. I'm looking at you, Till, because I know that Till likes to use pre-made templates and things. So none of that sort of stuff. You are allowed to have up to 3 levels, so you can build up to 3 levels. I think both Till and I got to 2 levels when we were competing last year, but it's not a challenge, and you don't have to have more than 1 level, so bear that in mind. Then you can put some labels in to your map if you want to. I know Till had some wonderful labels in his map last year, which I actually think may have turned the tide in the voting. That and his rampant cheating, of course. So, you know, either way, they are allowed to use labels, and then you can use tokens as well. So those are the basics of the maps, pretty much, in terms of the rules. Now, Let's see, what else do we need to discuss? I'm just busy looking at this very, very long list. I'm very excited. I want to kind of get into the challenge already, and I'm just making sure that I've got everything handed out to you before we get there. Now, there have been some people in chat already saying, I'd love to use Dungeon Fog, but my maps are still pretty basic. Well, tonight's the night that you get to ask two people who are arguably some of the best Dungeon Fog users out there. And you can ask them directly, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What are you doing with the next thing? So I suppose I should probably introduce you now to the two contestants that we are going to be watching battle it out. So here they are. Welcome, Till and LordGodd. Welcome to the show. And hopefully everyone can hear you when you answer by saying hello.
Hello.
There we go. All right, gentlemen, welcome to this map making madness for 2022. I hope the two of you are ready for this. Till, what have you been doing to prep for this? Have you been doing anything to prep for this?
Well, of course. I did my push-ups. I did my stair run-ups and stair run-downs. I did a few maps because I actually have an office game tomorrow. So I used the opportunity to play around with room layouts, play around with brushes, lighting. So I think I'm ready. I think, but I'm a little bit scared though, because I have a very strong opponent today.
Absolutely. LordGodd, you were the winner of the community challenge where you had to make a map in 3 hours and submit that with the rest of the contestants, and your map was chosen as the winner, and that's kind of got you now into this hot seat. Do you think you are capable of taking on one of the creators of the software?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I will be a formidable opponent to his map making here today.
That's good. That's good to hear. That is good to hear. So there's already a question from the audience, which is brilliant because they wrote the word question in caps in front of it. Thank you very much for that. Lazarus asks, Lazarus asks, are marketplace assets allowed? And the answer is no. No, this is basic. Whatever is in the comes with Dungeon Fog pack, which is only about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 assets.
7,000, yes.
There we go, 7,000 assets. So if you can't find what you're looking for in 7,000 assets, I think you're stretching. So yes, absolutely. So bear that in mind. No assets there. Right. So LordGodd, what do you use Dungeon Fog for?
I use it for my Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I run for my friends. They visit a lot of different locations, and I sort of dress them up as best as I can with Dungeon Fog. Nice.
And do you play on VTT or are you around the table?
Yeah, we play on virtual tabletop. We started during the pandemic, so we've been playing online the whole time. So yeah, I import them in.
Okay, fantastic. Till, we've seen your setup, and if you have not seen Till's setup, watch the Mapping It Out video that we did last week. Was it last week already?
Yeah, it was last week. Yeah,
it feels like longer ago. So there we are. I see chat is saying 7,000 assets is very limiting. I'm not sure Till can actually do something good with only 7,000. So there we are. Okay, so gentlemen, you understand that we will be choosing by committee, which is always a good way to choose a creative project, the map that you are going to be making this evening. You understand that you have 3 hours within which to do it.
Yep.
And that your map should express all of the qualities that we will be adding to it throughout this evening's processes. All right, so you are both aware that you will be adding and trying to incorporate that into your maps. Let's get ready to design your maps. So our very first step in designing a map is randomly choosing a location, and this is where you folks need to come in. So they're the numbers 1 through 12 in chat. Please write a number, 1 through 12. Just choose a random number, drop it into chat. I will randomly find a number that you have dropped into chat, and that will be the location that our two contestants this evening are going to have to use when designing their map. So I see there's some favorites there. There's a 7, there's a 3, cave or underground, a 7. Some numbers coming in there. Mr. 52 asked the question, what does Till's t-shirt say?
It says, well, I think it's really good for today. It says, no map time, no prep time, no problem. We will see if I can keep up that promise.
All right, the numbers are coming in fast and furious, which I like. Let's see, we've got some numbers there. I'm seeing that number a couple times. I'm seeing that number a couple times. We don't really have... I think we've got consensus. We have consensus. The same numbers come up twice. You are building within a city, number 2. You are building within a city. So whatever you are building must look like it's within a city. There we go.
Great.
There we go. I think that's the
my least favorite on that table.
It's hard to get it right.
Thank you, chat. Perfect.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Chat. Well, there we go. You chose that number, so that's what it is. Now that we know the location of this map, that it's within a city, which does narrow it down quite a lot, we now need to know what was its purpose. What was the function of this thing that was built within a city? There are our 12 options available to us. So give me those numbers once again. And don't worry, chat, it's not a hard and fast rules calculation on who chooses what and who votes for what. I'm literally just looking at random numbers to see which ones are coming up more frequently. So don't worry too much about this. It's all in the name of interest. So we're in a city at the moment. We're trying to find out the function, and
12 would be quite weird.
Interesting. A mine within a city. Could be dwarvish city, maybe built around a mine. A zoo?
A zoo.
Oh my goodness! How many options could we get there?
We almost got the zoo in the last one. Do you remember, guys?
Yeah, that's right. The last right. I was terrified.
That was I was terrified.
The zoo? Yeah. All right. I'm looking at it, and currently we contested between 4 and 2. 4 and 2. A lair or a prison. So chat. Let's see what we're getting in there. Got a couple more 4s coming in. I think we're going to call it. Oh, there's another 2. There's another 4. Yeah, we're going to call it. It's a prison. It is a prison. You are designing a prison within the city. So that should be interesting, I think. A prison within a city, or a city prison. Entirely up to you as to what you want to do there. And we're going to deep dive into the implications of what these things mean, folks, in terms of design principles. Hopefully our designers are ready. Their minds, you can see them both starting to think there, or panic. I'm not sure. Time will tell. Get ready to cast your next vote, because we need to now look at the alignment. Now, the alignment of this prison within a city, or a city prison, or whatever they're going to build. The alignment really determines the architectural style, or at least the implications thereof. So if, for example, you think about a neutral evil prison, neutral generally means that there's not going to be a lot of decoration, it's going to be fairly straightforward, but evil means that it's going to be designed so that the overlords can look down upon the subjugated, there's a sense of hierarchy, all those sort of things are imposed, as opposed to a lawful good prison, for example, where there might be plenty of training rooms, or there might be school rooms, or library rooms, or things along those lines. All sorts of ideas come through when we look at the alignment of the builders of this thing. And I see there's some chat saying that it should actually be a prison within a city. It's entirely up to.
I just discovered that the last 3 are really, they're going to change the map.
Insane, multi-planar, or magical? Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see what chat is going for at the moment. Oh, my. Oh, my.
No, I don't like that sound.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It's split between 10 and 12. Either it's an insane or it's magical.
Boy.
10 or 12, folks. It looks to me like it might be... Till wants it to be 10. An insane space.
That's fun.
An insane space. All right, let's have a look. These have come in, and I've got, just looking here roughly, I've got 4 of those and 3 of those. So it is definitely, it's a 10. It's an insane, built by people who were insane. A prison in a city built by some insane people. Well, there we go. That is easy, isn't it? No, I don't think it's easy. We've still got one last step to go before we finalize this insane city, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. And so the last thing we need to take into consideration is, what was the species that built it? Because if it was insane people, then it would be something very different. If it was insane tiny folk, for example, it might be really, 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 really small. If it was insane dragons, well, who knows? It might be roosts and that sort of thing. So once again, please cast your votes 1 through 12.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, LordGodd, I told you about the madness that's happening here. There's no turning back from that. I'm sorry, but this is...
I'm actually slightly relieved it's not a chaotic good prison, because that would have been very difficult.
Yeah, that's true. But it's in city, prison, and insane, and now there's a creature coming into play. This is going to be a long night.
Oh, an interesting number is coming up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, don't be 11. Don't be 11. Please don't be 11.
No, it's not 11. I think it's worse than 11.
How can I be even aquatic? No. Oh, please.
No. It's coming up. It's coming up. I'm going to take just a few more seconds to have a look. Any more votes coming in? And 3, 2, 1. It's hive beings. You are building an insane prison city made by hive beings.
Okay.
Okay. That's actually helping.
Is it helping?
That's helping?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we have not done our jobs properly, folks. But that's not a problem, because 30 minutes into the map-making process, we're going to be voting on some new stuff for them to add in, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. All right, so we have hive beings that have built an insane prison within a city, or something along those lines. Now, before we jump straight into it, off the top of your head, LordGodd, what are you thinking?
Bees? I'm not exactly sure how to do that, though. I'm thinking a lot of color would be good here. Not necessarily following any sort of pattern.
Okay. That's interesting. I like it. Till, what are you thinking?
I was also thinking bees or something like termites or ants. However, the thing is, we have a city that somehow probably has a prison in the city. That prison was built by insane builders, and the species, like the insane builders, were ants. So the biggest problem I have at the moment is, why would you get insane ants or bees into your city to build the prison? And I'm like, we will see.
Well, I won't tell you what chat is coming up with, because they're coming up with some very interesting ideas as well. They're running through all of the different hive mind species that you get within role-playing. And there's some interesting options there too. So chat, keep going with that. Now, before we kick off, if you are watching, I would recommend that you open up DGNFOG yourself, and why not try and do the challenge too. Keep up with the folks. You can draw your own map whilst watching what they're doing and asking them questions as you get stuck. It gives you an opportunity to practice a 3-hour challenge. Needless to say, I won't be doing it because I'm busy with other stuff. So, I think we're almost at the point where we're ready to begin this challenge. Now, let me just make sure, again, I haven't forgotten anything. because I'm super excited that this whole thing is happening. Chat is just going insane. I really like that. Yeah, I think if you guys could see chat, it would really help you right now. But you shouldn't be watching the stream. You should be focusing on your maps. Do you have blank templates on DGNFOG open and available to you?
Yes, we have.
All right, fantastic. Now, as you know, during the building of your maps, I will be asking one of you to mute your headphones while I secretly chat to the other, and then switching around vice versa. And I will try to interrupt both of you to an equal amount of time as you are forced to answer my questions as well as the questions of our wonderful viewers. And every 30 minutes, I will definitely be having a little conversation with you, the audience, as we vote for a new thing to be added to the map. I think it's time that we get started with this entire process. Before we do that, I'm going to play just very quickly a little reminder of the DGNFOG assets and program and software that we are using in tonight's show, as well as something that hopefully will make you smile, as it brings back memories of something that played out almost 2 years ago now.
Over there!
We can't let him get away!
Too late, fool! You will not escape! Us? What in the name of... Gary?
I'm sorry, okay? I hadn't prepped this part of the dungeon yet. I haven't had the time.
But you don't suffer from this, do you? For more than 2 years, you've helped us to enhance our tools, grow our map libraries, and given us a warm welcome in the community of map makers and game masters. We are honored to be part of this community, and all we can say is thank you.
Bring it on.
Okay, now if that didn't bring back memories, I don't know what. Yes, well, Till, do you remember making that crazy thing?
Yes. You mean the... sorry, I'm sorry. I was already like... There were so many crazy things. You mean the Bring It On clip that we did?
Absolutely.
The little community thing. Yes, it was lovely. I also liked very much the one that we did last year as...
yeah, we'll probably get to see that later on tonight.
Yeah. But yeah. So...
Just trying to work out why I don't have a... I'm slipping inside the box. All right. So the starter has already started counting down, but I have the power to reset that. So, gentlemen, your hive being insane prison in the middle of a city, your 3 hours starts now. And good luck to both of you as you start to design. Now, if we go to chat, I can't believe that it's been that long already. Absolutely, Chris Laverne. It has been so many years since we released that. Now, I see chat's got some really cool ideas in there. I'm not going to read them out aloud because our two designers can absolutely hear me at the moment. And I see that Till's actually not sitting in his space properly, but I'll sort that out quickly. So they were chatting during the commercial break there and just saying that they're desperately trying to figure out what sort of hive mind to go with. Now, obviously, one of the challenges is that, and of course, we sort of purposefully did this, was by getting them to tell us what their ideas were beforehand. They kind of either need to stick with that plan or try and flummox their opponent by going with a new one. So we'll see what kind of minds we've got at play here tonight, folks. It's going to be very interesting, and I can't wait to see paths added to this. Yes, absolutely. So Lazarus points out quite clearly that paths is a new feature that's just been added to DGNFOG fairly recently. It feels like it should have been there forever, because it's so useful. I mean, already we can see Till is using paths straight away, straight out the gate, chaps, as a matter of fact. Till's doing paths, and we've got LordGodd is working out some spaces, some rooms by the looks of things. Very interested to see their approach to designing insane buildings. Now, when we talk about insane buildings, the first thing that jumps to my mind is MC Escher's designs, his architectural designs, with staircases leading up to the ground floor that they left from, and all that kind of stuff. How you would translate that into Dungeon Fog, I don't know. It's not my problem, though. I'm not the one participating in tonight's challenge. But there are things like that you can sort of draw on, and so I can't get stairs to look good even with paths. Any hints? Well, hopefully we'll see them including some stairs tonight. I know that stairs, oftentimes you have to look at making sure that they shade lighter or darker depending on which direction they're going, up or down, and that can sometimes help by layering a separate path on top that you simply darken down. But let's see what they're going to be doing, and we'll jump in, we'll ask that question to them a little bit later on to see what happens. And Den of Dragons is saying, let's just do a 2x2 box and call it done, because that would be just insane. Yes, it would be to a degree. I think you would be hard-pressed to include the other 5 elements that we're going to be adding in later on in half an hour, which I was supposed to have kept track of at the launch. But anyway, we'll get to that bridge when we need to. And so yes, now I do like the suggestion that has come through in terms of looking at inspiration perhaps from one of the greatest, call it prisons or asylums really, is the Arkham Asylum. That's pretty insane in itself. Now, oftentimes when we look at architecture, when we look at buildings that become quite insane, if you have ever gone into a government building that has been in a one location for many years, over the years they have added on, they have subdivided, they've redivided, they've reopened up, they've reclosed down things, and oftentimes those become quite insane in themselves. So insanity is often bred over many, many years of use. Will we see that in tonight's maps? I'm not sure. Looks like definite cliffs going on there with Till. Not sure what LordGodd is doing at the moment. Fleshing out some things. So let me put this out to you, chat. You've now had the briefing, and we've got some ideas as to what some of the folks would be doing. Are any of you actually doing this challenge as we are watching the stream now? Are any of you doing that? Or are you just sitting back, relaxing? You've got a cup of coffee, perhaps, or something similar that you are sipping on and relishing in the trauma and the terror that is going on in front of you. Government building, that really nails the insane prison built by a hive mind theme, says Chris Laverne. Absolutely. A panopticon could be interesting. I don't know why, I find them a bit weird and off, says Mr. 52. Absolutely, I agree. XY72 says, I'm letting this play in the background while I work. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we will be entertaining you as we go. Wonderful Mystical says, definitely chilling and enjoying. Yeah, absolutely. Darkness Descends says, I'm only here to watch LordGodd trying to do this. Lol. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that LordGodd proves that not only can he do it, but he can also dethrone the master. Or be dethroned. Not dethroned, but just to have had a wonderful experience. Sheena Tiger Spielt says, sitting back, playing something, and listening mostly. Nothing wrong with that, as we're in the early stages of the map making. Although, if I look at it, it does look like there have been 2 radically different approaches to this entire process, which is part of the joy, I guess, about map making, is that you can start where you're most interested, and let's see what's going on. In about 3 minutes, we're going to go to each of the creators and start picking their brains as to just what on earth is going on in their heads, to see what kind of plan they have, if a plan at all. And I would ask you watching, when you're working with Dungeon Fog, do you have a set process? Do you have a formula that you kind of work through in terms of creating your maps within Dungeon Fog? I know I certainly do. I have a fixed routine that I go through, and so that's kind of, I do that regardless of whatever map I'm making. As a matter of fact, I find it quite therapeutic, actually. LordGodd is pretty insane, so this is a good fit, says Paul Mitzer. I absolutely agree. Now, if you want to check out more of LordGodd's stuff, head on over to dungeonfog.com and the community maps, and you can search for some of LordGodd's maps there. Some truly mind-blowing stuff. So I think at the moment, if we were to look at the two maps, very different approaches. So I see Forecaster71 saying, yes, they have a... I just make stuff up as I go, and it never, ever goes wrong. Yes. Oftentimes it is the mistakes that we can find the greatest creativity. We kind of go, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but that could be more interesting. So definitely worth looking at. Right, so we are almost 10 minutes already into the challenge, and we're talking hive beings. We're talking insane hive beings. We're talking a prison city, a prison within a city. And there are so many different things that you can look at. Now, already, chat, you've spoken about some of the different hive minds that exist within Dungeons & Dragons, or within any fantasy role-playing game, for example. And something that I was thinking about whilst this whole thing was being drawn up was the hive beings that built this prison. Who have they built it for? Have they built it for other hive beings? Do other hive beings need to be imprisoned? If they're part of a hive mind, would the hive mind imprison its own drones? That's kind of like going to a Star Trek Borg and arresting it for being anti-Borg. Kind of doesn't exist unless you've watched Star Trek Voyager, in which case there was a little space that existed that the Borg could escape to, but they weren't imprisoned once they were discovered. They were simply reassimilated and added back to the collective. So does that mean that these hive beings should have built a prison for non-hive beings? In which case then, well, who are they imprisoning? That could be a question. At least it's a question in my mind. Sheena Tiger Spielt says, I was picturing city and prison not as a prison inside a city, but a whole city functioning as a prison.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the same thing. Like, I felt like maybe this Snake Plissken...
absolutely, Escape from New York, Escape from Los Angeles. Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
just worried that I cannot pull it off within the time. So I'm like, nah, I'm going a different route there.
Absolutely. I think that oftentimes we have to look to alternative sources for inspiration. I think that's a good one. So we have now reached the first 10 minutes. So I am going to ask LordGodd if you wouldn't mind just muting your headphones, as I'm going to now have a chat with Till. I'll give you a thumbs up when you can listen to us again. All right. So, Till.
Yes.
I see you have a non-sponsored drink in your hand.
Oh, apologies. Yes. I need the energy.
You need the energy. Till, you've started quite quickly with your cliffs. What's the thinking there?
So, as I said before, I was thinking about, can I pull off a prison city? And I felt like, that's too much. I'm not sure if I can do it. So right now I'm trying to I have a good understanding of what I want to do with the city and why they're using this prison that was built by insane builders, insane hive creatures. So honestly, I want to get the city off the table first, because I want to. I can come back to the city and refine it if I have time left. But if I start with the city too late, I might be just running out of time to have actually ticked off the city part. So right now I'm starting off with a very rudimentary city. That is actually, so the story I'm coming up with is that this probably has been a mining city or a city that has access to caves near its city. That's what I'm creating with those walls. Currently, there is let's say there have been mines, right? And going into the mines, the townsfolk actually encountered creatures that are hive creatures that are actually really fond of imprisoning things. Why ever? We will come up with that later. So what they did was they instantly realized that this is a good selling point. They can actually work as a prison city in terms of this is where you bring your prisoners, and we will stuff them into the caves where the hive creatures are taking them into custody and are taking care of the prisoners inside there. But there's a weird twist between the villagers who are terribly afraid of the creatures that are in there and still need to live off from the benefit of being a prison city where the lordships send their prisoners and where all the prisoners are kept. I'm thinking a little bit of Arkham Asylum, probably not more like the underground version of what's it called in San Francisco?
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. Thank you very much. Yes. So I'm thinking of the underground version of Alcatraz, kind of. And that's what I'm doing right now.
And so you're going to get the city laid out first, and then
yes, I want to have
the
city layout checked off first, and then I'm going into the underground because I'm going to build an underground prison that has been created by insane hive beings.
All right, I do like that. Did you have any thoughts on mind flayers?
Yes, I did. The second the chat said, well, what about those typical hive creatures? I was like, oh my god, sure, mind flayers would be amazing. I haven't decided yet. I don't know yet. I mean, I can see a prison that is run by mind flayers. I can absolutely see that. However, to my opinion, mind flayers aren't insane per se. They are very structured and oriented. So I don't know how a prison would look like that an insane mind flayer has built. So again, I'm keeping this decision. I know what I want to do with the insane part. And then I will see if I can work in the mind flayer, or if I, in the process, decide that I go with my original thought, which would have been something like burrowing creatures like ants or termites, something like that, who have gone insane and are doing the weirdest shit in there. I don't know yet.
All right. Well, we've had 5 minutes with you. Let's going to have 5 minutes now with LordGodd. So hopefully LordGodd sees us. And thank you, Till. LordGodd, how is it going?
It's going. I've started.
So, what have you started with? We can obviously see you've been building some rooms and things. What is your thinking here?
Immediately when I heard the word hive, I thought of some sort of burrowing insect. So, despite the suggestion of mind flayers or something like that, I immediately, city and hive immediately made me think of some sort of burrowing insect colony. So I'm going to try and create some sort of underground city-like space, I think.
Okay. A city-like space underground. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. And in terms of you're basically doing a corridor now. Is that like the main road, or what do you...
I'm thinking that despite them being some sort of a burrowing insect, they are sophisticated enough to pave their tunnels that they've carved out in their hive. So they have a city-like infrastructure underground, maybe.
Okay. I see that you've got a block there of different color. Talk to us about that block. What is that?
Oh, sorry. That's actually on the upper level. So I'm thinking also that this is below a city. So maybe the hive wasn't always there, and that there was already a city here, and the city has extended down below into this hive area.
Interesting. Okay. And you say a burrowing sort of insect type creature. Do you know what it is yet?
Possibly some sort of bee or ant or termite kind of thing.
Okay. Interesting. Now, how long have you been making maps on Dungeon Fog for?
I think I've probably been doing this for just over a year on Dungeon Fog.
Only a year? Okay.
Only a year, yeah.
And do you have a background as a graphic designer?
No, I'm a computer programmer.
Right, and yet somehow you managed to win the community challenge and make beautiful maps. What do you think is your strength in Dungeon Fog?
My strength in Dungeon Fog is probably that I go for the artistic side of it. So I guess I have a little bit of artistic flair. So I try and make my maps look very almost painterly, I guess, is what I try to go for. So I focus on the things that make it look interesting and complicated.
Okay. And when you were doing the 3-hour challenge, did you find the 3 hours challenging? Was it difficult?
It was a lot of wait to make sure that you were getting it done in the 3 hours.
Right.
But we didn't have the same pressure in the community challenge of the ticking clock or the constantly changing criteria. We knew what we had, but we knew what we needed to do before we even started, unlike this.
Absolutely. And does it feel a little bit different now that you have no idea what's coming up?
Yeah, I'm very much dreading the next change.
Well, you've still got 10 minutes before the next change comes up. Only 10 minutes. Can you believe 20 minutes have passed already?
No, I can't. Oh, dear.
Yes, it does. It does tick by quite quickly. All right, carry on with your map till you can rejoin the conversation as we go back to seeing what they both are busy working with. And so just looking at chat. People saying the nerve of LordGodd of winning competitions after only having worked on Dungeon Fog for a year. As opposed to the rest of us have been working on it for years and still can't make beautiful maps.
Can I ask? I think LordGodd, you didn't just win the community contest, didn't you? You won another one of the competitions beforehand too, if I remember correctly, didn't you? Wasn't there another community challenge that you took part in?
I don't think so. Not that I can remember.
Okay, then it was just the community spotlight where we saw your maps and we were like, oh my god, they're so amazing.
Yeah, that was and then I was surprised to see that I was the community spotlight.
So yes, but just because LordGodd is the community spotlight and the challenge winner doesn't mean that you cannot supersede on that. Remember, if you share your maps, the Dungeon Fog team go through all of the shared maps in the community, looking to shine a spotlight on creative, unique, and different content creators. And some new updates coming to the community pages as well in the near future with regards to Dungeon Fog. So remember to watch Mapping It Out at the end of the month, usually, with myself and Till, as we go through all of the latest updates and new features coming to Dungeon Fog. And there are some pretty cool ones coming with regards to the community coming through. And so, yes, another comment coming in from Den of Dragons. LordGodd has helped me more than anyone else in the Discord. So there we go. Now, whilst LordGodd is smiling on all of the praise, we are getting ready to do our very first challenge update. Now, that's where we're going to get to choose, again, from a list of random things that our two contestants are going to have to add to their maps. And they must add them in. They don't have to add them in immediately. They can add them in at their leisure in the last 5 minutes of the entire competition if they really want to do that. But it is something that they will have to add to their map. What that brings me to is to talk about the judgment criterion, the things that you should be looking at as you are watching these maps unfold. And whilst you're doing that, I should point out to Till that using green is not great, considering that you are chroma keying out green on your map.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
But anyway, that is neither here nor there. What's important for us to bear in mind is the criterion that you will need to vote for when you are looking at these finalized maps. And the very first one is, did the contestant fulfill the basic parameters? So the maps that they are making at the moment, are the maps fulfilling the basic requirement of being an insane prison built by hive beings within a city? The answer is either a yes or a no, and that is something that you have to consider. Are they, or did they fulfill these requirements? The second criterion is, how good was the contestant on meeting the challenges? In other words, did they include all of the 5 random things that we're going to be throwing into their map? Did they make sure that those were included and somehow not just slapped on top of, but actually were incorporated into their overall design? That's the most challenging part, in my opinion anyway, of this entire competition, is figuring out how to randomly add in this stuff, but to make it look as if it was planned all along. Then the third criterion is, what is the overall creativity of the map? Now, we've heard that LordGodd likes to be more aesthetically creative when it comes to their maps, but when it comes to creating interesting, workable maps that have maybe multi-layers, or that have curious corners, or just an interesting design, is the map creatively interesting? And then the fourth category is it aesthetically pleasing? Because you might have an interesting map, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a beautiful map. Is this a beautiful map that when you look at it, you go, oh my goodness, look at that map. It is absolutely beautiful, or not? Is it aesthetically pleasing? And then finally, is this a good battle map to use in a role-playing game? Because ultimately, that's really what we use DGNFOG for the most, I would say, is for building battle maps. So if the map that is being designed by our designers is no good as an actual battle map, well, that kind of is a deal breaker, really. Or a game changer, I should say. So those are the 5 criterion that you'll be looking at. And don't worry, all of those prompts will be on the website. And that's dungeonfog.com/map battle madness. And you can see all of those different things when you go over to the website to cast your vote. And I would suggest you do that from tomorrow onwards, once the maps are finished and uploaded in all of their glory, so you can compare the two and cast your votes. So we've got just under 5 minutes to go before we throw in our first crazy. Thanks to Lazarus for throwing in the link there into chat, which is, as you can see, www.dungeonfog.com/map battle madness. So, yes. 2 very different approaches, or are they? Are they different approaches? We can see lots of pre-built rooftops being added to both maps, as a matter of fact. This is going to make it interesting. Our designers have gone for similar approaches. I think that makes it almost, in a way, easier for us to judge, because we can go, well, they both went for similar approaches. Who pulled it off the best? I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see. Can I
ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
Why am I green screening myself? I'm trying to figure that out, because I can see that LordGodd can work with green and I somehow can't. I'm not sure what I...
It has nothing to do with you whatsoever, Till. It was a setting on someone else's side, and I'm not going to mention any names at all. But you should be good to go now.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
With green. So there we go. Xanathog, an interesting comment there. We are still in early days. We're not even to the first 30 minutes of map making yet. And if you look at it, I certainly think that one of them, well, both of them, as a matter of fact, are pretty good for 30 minutes worth of work so far, if I do say so myself. A wonderful question from XHY720, or Xy720, I guess. Any tips for making rooftops look like rooftops? I find mine a little iffy. Well, absolutely. I think that's a very good question. Yes. And I think let's go to Till. Any commentary on how to make your rooftops look more like rooftops?
Yeah, so I think the trick is I don't want to waste too much time on my city, but just to demonstrate with that one, I think a trick is to actually use shadow. And now I should actually be able to move that to the back. Yes, there you go. Because I think, because of the elevation, having those roofs drop shadows, and I just did that by duplicating the roof, making it black, and then putting it beneath the roof. I think actually immediately adds depth to the whole thing. And you can do that either as I did now, with duplicating the prop. However, I do think I will go for a different approach for the rest of it, and that is not working right now. Oh, by the way, LordGodd, don't forget to save eventually. Is to use the brush tool and just manually add those drop shadows with a brush tool, because that is actually, if I'm running against time, I think I'm faster with the brush than duplicating each prop and placing it. So yeah, that would be my answer to it.
I think that's a pretty good answer. LordGodd, your thoughts on making rooftops look more like rooftops?
If you have time, I usually don't actually build with the pre-built roof assets. What I do is I make, if it's the case of a rectangular roof, I make intersecting shapes. So a triangle for the short edges of the roof, and then a trapezoid for the opposite sides. And then depending on which way the light is coming in, changing the amount of, making it a darker texture on the sides that are in shadow and lightening the texture on the sides that are in light. And then it sort of gives you that dimension of the roof, and it makes it feel like it's tall.
Absolutely. Good idea. Good idea. You could just create a single shape that is, I don't even know how you would describe it, but it could be combined to just create the shadow effect. Instead of making 4 pieces, you make 1 piece. But both excellent suggestions. If I might add my own 2 cents to it, roofs are not on their own. They need to stand on something, and generally speaking, each building will have some kind of perimeter around it, whether it's a path or, in the case of cities, pavements which lead onto streets. And oftentimes, if we treat the ground as importantly as we treat the roofs, when you put the roof on top of a pavement, and you can see that there are things underneath the roof, it helps with that illusion as well. You combine all 3 of the techniques that we've discussed, and you get an even better looking roof. And of course, you can play around with the chimneys and putting little things. I know there's ravens and various types of birds that you can add in to your rooftops to make the space feel alive, and make them slightly brighter than the ground level, and it will be you will be amazed at how much they pop out. And now, gentlemen, we get to add in our next component. And so that means, audience, you get to vote. So, fingers on keyboards, please, as we vote on the very first element to be added. They will add this to their maps or suffer the consequences. This is the list. 1 through 20. 1 through 20. If you would switch, please, LordGodd.
Oh.
1 through 20. Throw the numbers into chat. The numbers that come up the most are the ones that I will go with. That's a randomly chaotic way to go about this, but we are building an insane prison for hive beings. So choose one of those things to be added to their map. Will the prison contain pirates? Will it be the breeding grounds for the hive beings, perhaps? Will it contain a mad scientist or an inventor? Or perhaps sophisticated traps? I think traps in a dungeon, in a prison, seem a little bit over the top. If you can't keep them contained with your guards, why are you building traps? Is it infested? What infests a termite mound? More termites? You've got termites, sir. Yes, I know. We are all termites. No, you don't understand. What about belonging to a different civilization? Oh, that's insane. But then again, so's the map. Nature has taken over or reclaimed. It leads to a network below. Well, that would be interesting, considering both designers have gone with a submerged prison design anyway. A quiet contemplation area. A quiet contemplation area. Could be useful. Could be useful. For something cute. A place for something cute. We're going to add bunny rabbits to this crazy map. Inhabited by someone else. Yeah, could be interesting. Of constant battle. Has been altered by magic. Shaped by the elements. Of great power. Of worship. Filled with a puzzle. Oh, that would be absolutely mind-bending. That no one dares to enter. 'Tis a forbidden place, that place. Or perhaps is for the dead. Or where different planes intersect. Let's have a look at what has come up there. And I see that chat has taken to adding the votes together for me, which is quite nice. I do appreciate that vote of confidence. It does look like number 10. It does look like number 10 is up, which means you have to add in something cute.
Perfect. Love it.
Okay.
You need a place for something cute.
Okay.
Now, of course, the real question is, what on earth is something cute?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What is cute? Yeah, something cute. That will be interesting. If you both want to switch again, please, so we can see your maps. There we go. And interesting to see how, with just over 35 minutes on the clock, things are taking shape. In one sense. Now, if you do have questions for any of our designers, please pop the word question in caps into the chat before your question so I can see it, and then I will be able to ask it to either of the two contestants. I've got some questions to ask them myself, which we'll go through in a little bit. And yeah, and I see that there's some reminding going on, so let me just do a recap. In 2 hours 24 minutes, give or take, our two contestants have to put their pens down and stop designing their battle maps, which currently is a battle map of a prison that was built by insane hive beings in a city, and that it contains a place for something cute. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, folks. This is lovely. So that is what they've got to do. They're using DGNFOG from DGNFOG.com, if you're new to the channel, to do these maps in. They do not know what is coming up. So currently that's what they're doing. But in 24 minutes, we're going to add another component to the map that they will have to include and continue to include until eventually we get to 2 hours and 30 minutes of map making. So 30 minutes left to go. That's the last time we will add something to the map. and then they have 30 minutes to finish off that map. That map will then go onto dungeonfog.com/map battle madness, where you will be able to vote for it and, well, decide who gets to be crowned the Map Battle Madness Champion 2022. And later on in the year, a community challenge will be run once again, where you will get to enter the challenge, participate, follow the rules as laid out by drawing a map within 3 hours, submit it, and if you're the champion, if you're the winner anyway, you could face down whoever is crowned the champion of tonight's event. Now, just to remind you, the winner will be announced next week in another live show on this channel. That is Thursday the 28th. And we will take all of your votes into account and reveal who has won here between Till, the original creator of Dungeon Fog, one of the founders of Dungeon Fog, and LordGodd, the winner of the community challenge. And well, it's going to be interesting. Now, a question to either of you. Oh, that's an interesting one from Larsus. Is, do either of you, LordGodd or Till, do either of you use a tablet?
No, I don't. I do have one, but currently I'm using keyboard and mouse.
LordGodd?
Like during the actual drawing of the map?
Yeah. Do you use?
No, I just used my desktop.
All right, and you were using a Mac, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So there you are. Mac uses Unite. I know that's a constant question about updates. Will it support Mac? Will Mac support Dungeon Fog? And clearly it does. Okay, another question that came in, and this is for either of you. When you GM and you look for a public map made by others due to time constraints, what's the most important quality for you? Let's start with you, LordGodd. What's the most important quality for you?
I guess aesthetics, again, are probably the most important quality for me. I can make the story work, but if it doesn't look good and it's not engaging, then my players will lose interest a little bit. So I want them to feel immersed and have that immersion in the game. So if it looks good and it fits, that's what I look for. Looks good and it fits.
Till, what do you look for when you go to community maps?
When I go to community maps, okay, I didn't catch the beginning.
You've got 10 minutes before your game starts. You go to community maps because you're looking for a map. What do you look for in terms of choosing which community map you're going to use?
General layout, I would say. Because I know that if I only have 10 minutes, then I'm probably also going for aesthetics mainly because I'm trying to impress my players. But if I feel like the layout is actually supporting the part of the story that I want to bring there, then I'm going for layout, because using brushes and a few light sources can instantly turn a map into an impressive one. And also, I feel like if that's something that I just didn't prep in time, it most likely will be a random map where I'm like, they might be going there. Maybe I should have that in place. So yeah, I think looking at it and understanding whether or not it can work in the story. So layout is most important for me.
Oh, it's a good answer. It's a very good answer. Another question which has come through from Xanatharg, which I think is an interesting one. Is it worth upgrading to Dungeon Fog Premium? LordGodd, I see you nodding your head there. Why would you say yes?
Just simply that there's so much more content to work with, that you unlock the ability to tell so many more different stories if you have access to the premium account.
It's a pretty good answer. Till?
Well,
you're biased, obviously.
I'm a little bit biased. Well, yes, I think LordGodd answered it perfectly. It is going premium allows you to have so much more content, and also if you're still uncertain whether or not you want to go premium for a subscription or you want to just test it, they're the on-demand codes, which are kind of prepaid cards or prepaid codes that you can get. So if you're looking for a way to here and there quickly go in, you can go premium for a month, prep your maps, and then park the account and revisit later with another on-demand code. So I think it's a good way to do it. But again, having access to 7,000 assets, the prop templates, and all the other things that are part of the premium offering, why not take it?
I see. There was a shout, what's my opinion? It's always dangerous to ask what my opinion is. You know, my opinion takes 20 minutes to work through. But I would say what both LordGodd and Till have said is absolutely true. I also feel, though, that when you look at subscription-based services, a lot of them, you don't get new stuff. You just get to continue using the service that you kind of bought into. Whereas with Dungeon Fog, I'm amazed at how much content is constantly being added that you get just as part of the subscription. Not just the assets, but if you look at all of the brushes and you look at all of the shape tools and you look at the lighting tools and all that kind of stuff, it's constantly under development. And that for me is really the powerful aspect of it. And of course, as a publisher, we use Dungeon Fog for all of our maps. Because we can actually output them at a high enough resolution that you can print them. So there's a major benefit there. Now, I want to just jump in quickly, simply because what LordGodd is doing, I think, is interesting, and I want to know more. So, Till, headphones off, please, because I want to pick LordGodd's brain a little bit. LordGodd.
Hi.
Hi. What are you doing with that texture that you're brushing?
Right. I am to add in some of the atmosphere that I want to make it look more like it's underground and that it's a dark space. I'm adding shadows that go along the walls to really make it feel closed in and like a tunnel.
Now, you're using a brush tool for that?
Yes.
Okay. And are you using it as a continuous brush shape, or you've actually built separate little rooms and connected them together and then hidden the joining walls?
That's a way that if I decide that I don't like one room, one space, I can get it out of there and just replace a small section rather than having to redo quite a large space if need be.
That's very interesting. So do you tend to use brushes a lot to create extra depth? Because I've never thought of it as creating a shadow on a wall, because walls already have shadows. You're now enhancing those shadows.
Right. I tend to go through and add a lot of artificial shadows into it. I find that I can sort of bump up the atmosphere a lot if I do that.
Okay. Do you use the lighting tools as well?
Yeah. In combination, you can get a lot of different effects. So I once I've got all these base shadows in, which are just like what the walls will cast around,
right,
then I will go through and start adding in lights to bounce around in that space as well.
That's a really cool technique. I think that's really cool. And I see now that what you're doing is you're taking each wall piece and making it a curve. Is that to make it feel more organic?
Yes. Yeah. To make it feel more like an animal chewed it out of this space underground.
And with regards to the textures that you've chosen, that sort of stony texture, do you have like a go-to, this is my stone interior texture, this is my cave texture?
I don't have one that I prefer to use over another. I have a couple of rock textures that I like, that I feel look more organic, like the one that I've used for the sort of dirt areas around. But mostly it's what looks good in the browser at the time.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Especially in a panic mode like this.
Aha, especially in a panic mode. It's like, oh, that texture's perfect. Right. And you're still convinced that you're going to stay with the tiled floor?
No, not entirely. I'm looking at it now. I'm not 100% sold on it.
Aha, okay. You've already got some prison cells in there. So check prison. That's ticked. What else are you thinking of adding to this prison space, potentially?
Well, right now I'm trying to figure out things that are cute, because that's pretty tricky. So some dolls and things like that are going in, whatever toys I can find.
Right.
I think those are cute, right? They're cute.
Unless you've watched the movie Chucky.
And they are coming from the horror assets, I noticed.
Right.
So
might be giving you a clue there.
It is insane, right? So
right. Yeah,
right.
That is true. That's definitely true. What are you thinking made this? Question from Xanathog.
Made which, sorry?
The space. What are you thinking? Because originally you were saying maybe termites, or you were saying something along those lines. Are you still in that space?
Yeah, I think it's probably some sort of humanoid insect creature has made this space. Something that sort of bridges the gap between us and insects.
Okay. I like that. You're a fan of Star Trek?
Is
that right?
Yeah.
Did you think Borg at any point in time?
That's, I guess I'm thinking more of the hive creatures and not so much the mind aspect.
I got you.
It did enter, like the idea of that hive mind kind of creature did enter early on, but I'm trying to move away from that now.
All right. Such a wholesome murder doll left in the prison, says Mr. 52. I agree. A wholesome murder doll. Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? How some objects immediately shift from being cute to terrifying depending on the context in which we find them. And a doll in the middle of this alien underground prison thing. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see whether that remains cute or not. So yeah. All right, let's go and see what Tiller's doing. He's doing something equally interesting, I should say, or alternatively interesting. Let's see what Tiller's doing. Thanks, LordGodd.
Thank you.
All right, Till. Okay, Till.
Yes.
What you doing?
So my first attempt was, I was trying to see if I can get this insane, creaturey, burrow cave structure, and I realized that it's not hivey enough. So although I'm still not going for bees or insects, I do still like the idea of going with the mind flayer. I think structurally working with the concept of hives is interesting. So I'm now, and this is still an experiment, I might delete all of that. I'm just letting my mind flow. I'm playing around with the idea of having those, how do you call that, honeycombs?
Yes, the honeycomb, yeah.
As an inspiration for the room structure, the way that the rooms are. And if you look at that, it is quite interesting when you get, oops, sorry, wrong one. When you start to merge them, it creates very interesting rooms that you can work with. So what I'm thinking of is, if you're running a prison, you most likely are going to have prison blocks. So now I'm trying to establish at least 3 different prison blocks where I can put different creatures in. And one of the prison blocks might be for cube creatures, whereas the others might be for pirates or whatever. The problem I'm having right now is the builders are insane. So how do I work that into the whole thing? I don't know yet. I need to figure that out. Right now I'm just experimenting with shapes and trying to find something that resonates with me, where I then go and say, okay, got you. Now I know what I want to do. And that's where I am currently.
Okay. Well, I like this whole idea of experimenting with shapes. I think that's a good idea. Someone in chat keeps saying, please add a kitchen. I think it's someone by the name of Being with Sage Jacoby. It says, please add a kitchen. They want kitchens added.
Well, then there is going to be a kitchen. Actually, I was just about to do one. I don't know why. It was like, there must be the kitchen.
There must be a kitchen, yes. It does raise a very interesting point, though. Thank you, Till, and thank you to LordGodd as well. I'm going to go back to both of you now. When you start looking at designing these kinds of things, LordGodd, have you ever studied architecture? Do you look at floor plans or blueprints of ancient cathedrals and that sort of thing in your spare time? Is it a hobby of yours?
It's not a hobby, but I've done it before for some of the maps. One of the storyline elements in my campaign required me to build something that I thought it would be much easier to look up a blueprint for to see how it was made. So I did that, and
right.
It's a good thing I did, because I would have made a lot of mistakes based on what I saw. So I have used that in the past.
Till, do you study architectural plans from time to time?
Architectural plans. So because map making has become such a big thing in my life, I actually started to show much more interest. I didn't study it as a graphic designer. I briefly touched it during graphic design school, but now I am actually quite interested in it, and I'm reading a lot of books about it, and I'm reading a lot of sources about it. I have a few architectural books that whenever I have the time, that I flip through, just to understand how architecture actually influences map making. So it's a hobby.
It's a hobby. There we go. That's good to know. I was very amazed. I was at Newcastle Castle the other day. That is literally the name of the castle, Newcastle Castle. And it was interesting to see their design, how much we take for granted space in our maps that we design for role-playing. The medieval time period did not have a lot of space. The bigger the room, the longer it would take to build, more resources and the like. And they didn't have all of the wonderful fantasy things that we have access to, like mages who can move earth and shape stone and the like. But Newcastle Castle is a standard Norman keep in terms of its design. One of the things that it had going for it, which some other castles did not, was it had central plumbing, in a sense that all of the garderobes, that's the old-fashioned name for the toilets and changing rooms, basically, of the Lord and the inhabitants, all three garderobes were linked together into a central dropped shaft, basically, that would take all of the waste and drop it to the bottom of the castle, where there was a little door that would be opened to clear it away by the peasants in the mornings. I only mention this because when I was there, if you actually look at the entire structure of it, it's a major weakness. These things were not built to be very, very narrow. You could fit a decent-sized human being up those shafts, and you got 3 access points into the castle, guarded by one small, albeit very smelly door. So when you're looking at designing dungeons and prisons and that sort of thing, kitchens, garderobes, all those kinds of things, well worth adding into. So Mr. 52 says, I like how LordGodd is still diligently working as he talks to Guy, while the ever-confident Till is happy to down tools and gesticulate to answer. Ha ha! You have discovered my cunning plan. No, there's no planning in this whatsoever. Yes, I think it's fascinating to see, at least from my perspective, I don't know about yours as viewers, please, and chat along here with me, just watching how the two are going about building these spaces and their different approaches to doing it. One seems quite set on a plan. The other seems to be making it up. And it's going to be interesting to see who gets what right at the end. And if I know either of them, or my own experience, at the end they'll go, "Why did I do that? I should not have done that. I should have done this. I should have done that." Forecaster 71 says, "Of course they didn't have space. They didn't have any rockets." Well, that was their problem. That would have solved the entire Crusades if they'd had rockets, wouldn't it? There we go. Right, 3 minutes to go before we add in the next crazy thing that will have to be incorporated into the map. Now, LordGodd has already tried to tackle the something cute. Till, have you looked at the something cute yet?
Well, yes, I have written it down. There you go. I think the trick I'm going for is I'm going to place those things. I'm going to collect a few now. I'm trying to understand my layout first, but then I'm going to imprison those things somewhere to tick those boxes.
Okay. Plausible deniability. I will include them at some point when I get there. When I
get there, exactly.
When I get there. Okay, with 2 minutes to go, you know the drill. You need to type in a number between 1 and 20 to vote for the next thing to be included. Now, I encourage you, don't think too hard about it. Just think about a number that you particularly like and type it into chat in 1 minute and 51 seconds. So we can see what needs to be added to this whole thing. Now, I have to say that when you look at the one map, and this could just be me, it almost looks as if it's ready to play. Whereas the other map is very much still in its design stages.
Don't say that. Yeah, that's pressure. I don't like the pressure.
Oh, I am terribly sorry. No, you're both doing very, very well. Keep it up. Yes. But one of you really does look like the map's almost ready to play, and the other one looks like you're still starting. So there we are. Pro tip from Guy: in all things map making, don't think too hard, says Chris Laverne. I think that's actually true. True. Right, with 58 seconds to go, I think let's have a look. Let's have a look at what we can vote for in terms of what needs to be added to the map. Now, bearing in mind, if you are new to the stream, there will be 5 things that will be added in due course. We've added 1 already, 4 to go, that must be included in the map in order for the map to be considered sort of complete. And if the contestants do not include all 5 things, it could possibly cause them to lose the entire competition, no matter how beautiful their map might be, as it is one of the criterion is, did they manage to include all of the additional elements? Speaking of those elements, here they are. So 1 through 20, don't vote for number 10 again, unless you really, really want to add in something cuter. But I'm not sure that's entirely possible. I think LordGodd has used all of the toys that he has had access to in DGNFOG. So off you go. Vote now. 1 through 20, excluding 10. Write the number down and put it in chat. And everyone in chat can start to keep a tally. I'm watching it as well, so we can see those numbers coming in. Oh, interesting. Let's see. Have we got a clear front runner at the moment? 17 looking strong. I'll give it a few more seconds for those numbers to come in. Let's see. I mean, chat's just being mean.
No! Why are you saying that?
Some of the chat's been trying to be kind, but Yeah. As Paul Mitzer says, have to make this as grueling as possible. All right. Being mean is what we're here for, right? Chris Levine? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. That's it. We are going to take it. It is number 17. You have to have it filled with a puzzle. You need to add in a puzzle.
Like it. I love puzzles.
LordGodd, you don't look too happy about that.
I am not sure where to start with that one. Puzzle.
As chat's saying, they're both devs, so this should be a cakewalk, right? Coming up with puzzles?
Famously, we love puzzles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, wait, what?
We are 1 hour into the competition. 2 hours remain. If you are happy with where your map currently is, well done for you. If you're unhappy where it currently is, well, you got 2 hours to fix it.
Oh, great.
Sheena Tiger is saying, I can see Till going through the chat logs and banning all the users who voted for the winning options as revenge for being mean. All right, we're going to jump in very, very quickly now. So I want to go and have a little chat quickly. And let's start with LordGodd. LordGodd, how did paths change your approach to map making? Have they influenced you at all, the paths tool in DGNFOG?
Yeah, certainly for things where you want to have a lot of height, I find that the paths are indispensable. So say you wanted a regular mountain face, it's much easier to use the path tool to sort of draw that level of the mountain and then take that path, duplicate it, lift it up, change it a little bit, and then just do that over and over again until you have the height that you're looking for. And being able to copy the path that you've started with and not having to duplicate it by hand is great.
Absolutely. Now, you used a path there to create that river, is that right?
Yeah, that's the canal path. Every city needs a canal, right?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Functions as a whole lot of things. Just going back to Newcastle Castle, the moat was used by the locals as a rubbish tip, to the point that the Lord had to actually ban them from dumping rubbish into his moat because A, it filled the moat up, and B, it stank. Terribly much. So, okay. Now, in terms of your design, you're an hour in. Are you satisfied with where you are at the moment?
No, not at all. A lot of work to do still.
What do you feel? Do you feel that you should have been further?
I think that I made too many spaces to occupy early on, and now I'm paying the price for that.
And by too many spaces, you mean too many rooms?
Yeah, and I think I could have focused on the hive element a little better and sort of communicated that more effectively. And I think I have an idea of how I can fix that, but I want to make sure that I get the things that I need to have in, the atmosphere that I'm looking for, and certainly some playability stuff that I would like to work on before I would say I'm happy with it.
And in terms of the puzzle challenge, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I sort of made, since it's a prison, I figured that there might be some sort of sentencing aspect. And I've already sort of conveniently, by accident, maybe introduced some puzzle stuff, because we have some fair games here to... So this prison is, since it's insane, run by random chance for what your sentence will be. And maybe if you do well on the puzzles, your sentence could be commuted or lessened, perhaps. But that was total accident. So,
if you're smart enough, you can get away with anything, because you'll get sent to prison and then you'll get let out again, because you're pretty smart. Well, I suppose meritocracy is not a bad way of going in terms of who should be in prison and who shouldn't be. In one way, if you're looking for a completely unjust system. All right. Well, lovely. I'll leave you now. We'll go and chat to Till. See what he feels. Till.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're there. Okay. What are your thoughts? How do you feel now that we are an hour in?
Same as last time, I feel like I spent too much time on the previous level, and now I'm getting stressed because there's so much psychology working. When I hear you say that LordGodd already has a playable map, and I'm like, I'm nowhere. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And I'm like, oh no, this feels so much like the last time. But I do know that I can still, because now I have a concept. Now I know what I want to do. So now it's just a matter of being fast and being thorough, and I can catch up.
Aha. And with regards to the puzzle?
Yeah, that's super easy. That actually helped me because I was still trying to figure out how an insane creator would create that place, and now it is something that is, I don't know, this is a placeholder, by the way. I'm not using that texture. This texture is a placeholder for me to help me orient on the map, because I don't know with what that place is filled, but it is filled with something disgusting. And you actually need to solve puzzles to enter the prison. That is a good way to keep prisoners from escaping. But that is also quite an insane thing to do if you want to bring prisoners into the prison. So the thing is, I'm going to create something like a puzzle where you need to work out how to rotate the bridge. To get into the place where you want to. And I think that is for players, that is quite interesting to do. So working out a way to rotate the bridge, which means now I need to have bridges. And slowly everything is coming together. The big pressure is the time. I'm not sure if I can make it in time. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's interesting. I like your idea about the bridges. How would you say the path tools changed your approach to map making in Dungeon Fog?
A lot, because it is actually I haven't really. I have so many prop templates for my personal maps that I've created before the paths tool was there, that I'm still getting used to the paths tool. But I do learn, especially today, because I said to myself, well, I can't rebuild all my prop templates just for the sake of rebuilding those groups and then duplicating them. So I said to myself, okay, if I want to save time, I actually need to use the paths. I don't think that I've mastered them. I have seen maps from the community that are much better, and they're using the paths tool. But I do feel that I'm slowly getting the hang of it, and by the end of the day, I might be just using paths tool all the time.
There we go. Now, a question that's come through is from Xanathog. How do you make maps thematic for certain creatures?
Thematic for certain creatures, I think about how those creatures would live in that place. So what would they do to that place? If we're talking illithid or mind flayers, what is it that they're doing? I need to understand, have they built that place? Because then the architecture is actually inherited into the whole building part, or do they kind of infest or move to that place and then repurpose it to their own means? So I try to think of what would a creature do to this place if it would live there. That would be my answer.
Fair answer. Fair answer. Let's go back to both creators now to see the progress. We heard that LordGodd's got too many rooms to fill. Till does not have enough time to execute his vision. Both are quite excited about the puzzles. They should be. They've still got quite a lot of time before another puzzle is introduced. And by quite a lot of time, I mean 18 minutes. Mwahaha. I must admit, it's a lot of fun being on this side of the competition, folks. It is being the one in the hot seat going, what do you mean I have to add in a this? Anyway. Right. So, moving on. I've got some more questions kind of going through my mind here. And remember, if you have any questions, type the word question in caps lock. So far, everyone's been very good about doing that. And I have to say thank you very much for doing that. So I really do appreciate that. Let's go to some of the questions. This is for both of you to answer, please. And let's say LordGodd to start for this question. How important is color in your map, LordGodd? How important is color?
Very. I try and make sure that things are very contrasty between the elements on the map as much as possible, even though I do tend to add in a ton of shadow. Because if there's not a lot of color separation between things, it can get a little confusing to see for the players to see what they're looking at. And I want those playability things to be there as well. So, and then it's just more visually interesting if there's a lot of color.
And how do you choose that color?
That's a good question. I think it sort of depends on the space that you're in. So I would expect that an underground space is going to be, if it wasn't insane, maybe more muddy colors, I guess. So browns and grays and things like that might be, and since it's dark, more browns and grays and blacks for those kinds of things. But above ground, in the city space, I'm trying to make it bright.
Okay, so trying to make it feel as if it belongs in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Till, how important is color for you?
Very. I think color is one of the most important things that you do to a map when it comes to atmosphere, creating kind of laying the tone to what the players should experience. I generally always use atmospheric light, which means not a light source per se, but a light that just adds color to the scene, just to underline of what is going to happen. Is something magical happen? I might use a purple color. Is something poisonous in the area? I might use something green. If water is there, having a blue color in there. So I think color is super important.
And how do you take into account color? How do you decide, I want this to be blue, I want this to be more red?
Because I'm playing on the emotion. I don't think that it has to be realistic in terms of coloring. Guy, you're coming from film, so you know that for film sets, you often use colors not to really kind of bring in realistic lighting, but to create atmospheric lighting that sets the scene. So working with the emotions that you want to have, I think is my trick.
Fair, absolutely fair question. Fair answer, I should say too. So a question that's coming from Eric van Roxelot. I always get it wrong. I always want to say Von. It's Van. Eric van Roxelot. When it comes to props, when you're not in competition map making, so when you're just making your own maps, what level of props do you populate your gameplay map with versus just describing? So do you put in the beds and the pillows into a bedroom, or do you just put in a bed and say, well, it's a bedroom, there's a cupboard, there's clothing, there's pillows and that sort of thing? How real do you try and make your your rooms. Till, let's start with you.
I prefer simplicity. I don't think. I mean, it's hard to answer in a short sentence because there is a balance between what do you need to add so that your players understand the purpose of the room, and what can you leave away. But then on the other hand, there is also the things that you want to hide so your players can discover them. I tended to do too much decoration in rooms, which just confused my players. It was just sensoric overload, too many things in there, which can lead to them investigating everything they see on the map, but which can also lead to kind of a deprivation, because if they never find something interesting, they will take all the clutter in there for granted, and they stop. Now, if you do the opposite, if you have an empty room and you just put a bed in there, then the bed obviously should have a meaning because you put it in there. So it's hard to give a clear answer on that. I would say rather less than more, and try to bring it down to the essentials and use things that have a meaning to the player.
LordGodd, what are your thoughts on props? More or less, or somewhere in between?
More is more. I tend to try and pile in as much atmosphere as I can, and that just gives the players something to sort of pick up on, and that has proved in my game to provide story elements that I didn't even think of ahead of time. And so we end up on some tangent to the main quest related to something that they saw on the map that I had put there just sort of on a whim. But that much is super fun. So I tend to add a lot of things into the space.
Right, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you, actually. I put in one of the statues from DGNFOG into one of my maps, and my players, when they saw the statue, were convinced that the entire plot was that they had been dragged through time to fight off against a very crazy maniac. And of course, that became the entire plot, was that, yes, time travel was involved, even though it had not been part of the original plan. It's lovely what players pick up on. That leads me to the next question from AK Writer, and that is, in your career as GMs, what has been your most favourite moment with a self-created map? And what made that moment so special? LordGodd, your favourite GMing map moment?
My favorite GMing map moment so far was I created the lair for my players. They had accumulated enough money and they needed a space to live. And so I made them a house, and immediately upon entering the house, they all ran in different directions in the house looking for their room they needed to claim, which was hilarious. And I felt like we were all 12 years old again.
I have had many a time with the players like, that's my room. No, it's not. It's my... Yeah, I think that's great. Till?
I would say the first time I did a map that actually changed as combat progressed. So that was my most, that has the longest and highest impression on me, was when I made a map where part of the cliff breaks off and starts to float. So I've created maps in different states that when we went through the battle, the players actually really had the feeling. We all on the table were like, oh, what's happening here? As those floating rocks were drifting apart. And we had so much fun with it. Apart from that, I think every map, I'm designing every map I do, I design to get something out of my players. And even if it's just a, because I now know that I have their attention when they're looking at the map.
I think you actually showed me that map that broke apart. It was quite spectacular, I have to say. That was quite spectacular.
It's in the public library, I think, and it's part of my Tomb of Annihilation collection that I've put out there. I think it is.
Oh, there we are. If you want to have a look at this map that breaks apart, go and have a look for it in community maps. I beg your pardon. Now, another question that came through, this time from Paul Mitzler, says, do you take into account how the map will be shown to your players? For example, a projector or television, printed VTT. Do you ever show your maps to your players in different states, LordGodd?
We only play online in a VTT called Owlbear. So they only ever see it in that.
And do you think that influences how you design your maps in any way?
I don't think so. The VTT is pretty bare bones as far as features goes, and that's intentional. So I think the way, actually, I guess it does. Since there's no dynamic lights or anything like that in that virtual tabletop, I try and make sure that the map communicates that kind of information as part of the drawing that I create in DungeonFog. Yeah,
makes sense. Till, how do you usually present your maps to your players?
Well, I for those of you who haven't seen the stream from last week, I have a projector that is projecting the maps onto the table, so we can actually use minis while we sit around. During lockdown, I also went and we played online, but to be honest, it's not the same as if you could play in real person. And using a projector allows me to do as many maps as I want to, without thinking about printing them or tiling them or whatever I need to do, because I can have all the maps I want. I just project them onto the table and we can play. And that's how I do. Was that the question, or was it more?
Well, that was part of the question. Do you design your maps then in terms of knowing that you're going to project onto your table? Do you design your maps differently than, for example, if you're using them for a VTT?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a difference because when you play on the table and you shift the map, you have to shift and move the map all the time. The projection moves, but your minis don't. So you constantly have to rearrange minis. You're like, okay, everyone on the table, watch out, I'm going to shift the map. Now please reposition. So while on VTT, you can actually go whatever size you want. On the table, I try to play with the table format itself, which means that I have smaller maps. Not always, because I love making maps and they grow bigger and bigger. But I have the medium table and projection area in mind when I do that.
That's fair. That's fair. Just as another alternative, since neither of you seem to do it, I actually use the DungeonFog viewer that is native to DungeonFog for my games. My players log into the DungeonFog account and they can move their tokens around on the maps. And so I actually design my maps to be interactive. So if the players say, oh, I want to move the table to find a trapdoor, because I'm in DungeonFog, I can physically just move the table to reveal a hidden trapdoor underneath. That does work if you really want to see how long searching a room actually takes, because when your players actually have to look at the map and figure out where they're going to look, it takes a lot longer than just doing a perception check to search for secret doors, let me tell you. So there are ways to mean. So that was a very good question, quite an interesting question actually. I see there's another question. Till, can you point or tell us how your projector rig works? I think watch last week's mapping it out.
You can't see it in the mapping it out itself. I have
it's suspended above it.
Yeah, suspended above the ceiling. So the trick is, or the difficulty is, to find a projector that can actually kind of project directly straight forward. Sometimes it doesn't work properly. I have a rig on the ceiling with a projector screwed to it, and then I adjusted it in a way that it can actually project directly down. It didn't work perfectly with the projector I have, so I'm still looking for the perfect solution there. But it was a bit of a playing with distance and projection with and lumen and stuff like that, where you're like, okay, now it works. But I think it in a dark basement, I think it works quite nicely.
Having played on that, I can say that it does work very, very well. It really does. There's a suggestion from chat that maybe there should be a YouTube video from Till on showing us that whole thing.
I could do that. Yep,
Yeah,
I can definitely do that.
absolutely. Right, 3 minutes to go before we add in the next component into the craziness that is. I see. Well, again, we've got Till busy working on the trap or the puzzle. I think
It's the puzzle. Yes.
Yeah. LordGodd is playing shadows, so that's an interesting approach there. We've got some more questions from chat, which I will get to shortly, and we've got some more questions here in the script as well. Actually, some of them already asked. Actually, oh yes, here's a quick one, as we've only got 3 minutes away, or 2 minutes now from the map selection. What is your favorite structure in real life? What is a building or structure that you have visited in your real life, as opposed to in your dreams, I suppose, that you have particularly enjoyed, if any? LordGodd.
The University of Toronto Library is particularly impressive.
What makes it impressive?
It's in the round, so it's quite tall. It's an imposing structure.
And filled with books, presumably?
Filled with books, so it sort of already lends itself to that sort of fantasy feeling. It's an old building.
There we go. University of Toronto Library, you say? LordGodd?
Yeah,
that's the one. Okay, perfect. Well, all of you watching, you can Google that and go and have a look at LordGodd's favourite building there. Till, your favourite building?
Oh, I
Next question.
Next question. Well, there is. We haven't been inside it. But if you remember, there is Castle Liechtenstein. I think that is one of the most beautiful castles in my near surrounding, and I keep visiting it because I like the inspiration that I get from it. But I do think there are more than just castles that are really inspiring. I'm doing caves at the moment. I can't come up with a good answer.
I think Castle Liechtenstein is a great example of an interesting castle. Anyway, it's definitely much more of a fantasy castle than a real castle would be. Not to demean Castle Liechtenstein. If you have a look for it, we visited there literally 2 weekends ago. Crazy. Lovely, beautiful piece of architecture there. Right, 40 seconds to go. And we're going to add in the third component to your maps. So hopefully you've either chalked off the first two, which was something cute and a puzzle, or you've got a plan on what to do with them. Right. So, adding in a map element. We're going to add in something. This is up to you, folks. Please, 1 to 20. Don't vote for number 10 or for number 17.
Oh, sorry. We need to switch. My bad.
Oh, yes, please switch. I forget to tell you to switch. There we are. All right, 1 through 20. And let's get those numbers in. There's a question. Have either Till, you or I, or LordGodd, have you seen Castle Hohenwerfen? Hohenwerfen. Hohenwerfen.
Hohenwerfen. No, I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it. I have not seen that. Let's see. We've got some. No. Oh dear. Oh my. Okay.
I don't like the sound of that.
We've got one number that seems to be prevailing at the moment, unless I'm very much mistaken. Yeah. It looks to me like it's going to be number... Well, let's see. Still some votes coming in. 3 votes for 6, but I also see 3 votes for 3. 3 votes for 6, 3 votes for 3. At the moment, we're split. They can't decide. Is it a mad scientist or once belonged to a different civilization? So let's see. There's another vote for 3. We're going to give it another 10 seconds and then call it. Yeah. Everyone confirming the numbers now. And so it is. Number 3. A mad scientist or inventor. Now, LordGodd, you seemed very happy with that. It appears as if your microphone has changed, or your headphones are. One moment, if you please. Okay.
Well, I can quickly come in here.
Yes. What are your thoughts about Mad Scientist?
I'm not super happy with it, but I think I can make it work because I do have this or this puzzle, which kind of can work because it was invented by the mad scientist. Now I need to find a way to introduce this control space for the puzzle that looks like a mad scientist made it in a place of insane hive creatures, which is going to be hilarious.
Are you with us, LordGodd?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can indeed, loud
Great.
and clearly. Yeah, absolutely. You seem very happy with Mad Scientist.
Yeah, based on the puzzle element that I decided to add, I think that I can work with that compared to the civilization one. So,
all right, I like that. All right, if you can both switch, carry on with the work. 1 hour, 26 minutes remaining. You are halfway through the challenge. Are your maps halfway through to being complete? That's the question. That's the question. We have come to view the tapestries, Mr. Jones. There we are. Nice summation in chat if you've just joined us. The team are building, each of them is trying to design a map that is a prison that was built in a city by insane hive beings. It has to contain something cute. It has to be contain a puzzle, and now it has to contain a mad scientist or an inventor. And it'll be interesting to see what comes up with that. Both LordGodd and Till seem quite excited by the prospect of mad scientists, which is unusual. I think we're going to have to dig deeper next time when we vote, which is in 25 minutes, to try and find something that gets them to not be so jubilantly happy. We don't want them to be jubilantly happy. We want them to be screaming and gnashing their teeth in frustration and terror. Or maybe that's just me. You might want them to have a wonderful experience. Who knows? Right, let's see. Back to those questions that you were asking. And I think there was 1 or 2 that I hadn't yet got to. There's some technical questions about your projector layout, Till.
Yeah, I think I will do a YouTube video on that, and I can show you what I did and how I mounted it.
Yep.
I do know that there is a new, I think it's from Samsung. There is a new projector coming out that is quite interesting. I'm going to look at that, which is this round, looks like a boombox thing. Don't know the name right now, but there is, maybe that might change my setup in the future.
Well, there was also a question on how do the players see their character sheets, their cards, and that sort of thing. Or are they always on laptops, tablets? I have to say, I think we were all on tablets when we were playing
From a gaming groups, it very much depends. We have one group that is strictly pen and paper, and they just have their sheets and their folders with them, and they have it at their side. We sometimes have to remove them to see the full map, but generally speaking, it depends on the gaming group. You played all on tablets, and so does another group of mine as well.
There we go. Question: was it for a mad scientist, inventor, or from? The wording is: your map also needs a place from a mad scientist or inventor. From a mad scientist or inventor. I guess that could just be that need to live there or work there, or something that they have designed themselves. I think we'll leave it to interpretation there. Next question, and this is for both of you, so either one of you can answer. Indoor or outdoor maps? Which do you prefer making, LordGodd?
Definitely indoor. I prefer to make the inside of buildings if possible.
Is that just because it gives you structure, or what do you prefer?
Yeah, the constraints of it being inside of a space can be helpful, and I guess more familiar.
Makes sense. Till?
I prefer doing outdoor maps. I have a lot more fun doing outdoor maps. Although the thing is, I've started with indoor maps, and the whole DGNFOG tool was when it was built, it was actually really good with indoor maps. And as the software progressed, it got better and better at doing outdoor maps. So now I have a lot of fun creating outdoor maps because of the organic feeling that outdoor maps have usually. And it depends, but I would say actually at the moment I enjoy outdoor maps over indoor maps.
There we go. That's I have to say, when I was writing down these questions, I was trying to answer them myself, and I went, I'm not sure which I prefer either. Both present different challenges. I do think with the new path tool, outdoor has become a lot more like designing indoor, because now you're using your paths, which almost become like room spaces themselves anyway. But yeah, question from chat from Alirian 76. Guy, are you glad that you do not have to make the map under the pressure today, or will you make one map of your own afterwards? I have to say, one of the things that I love about these kind of challenges, and it's not just the Map Battle Madness challenge, but any of the community challenges and that sort of thing. As creators, oftentimes we kind of making the same stuff over and over again. So when you have this random chaos introduced by other minds, whether it's the community like yourselves currently voting for these different maps, or whether it's someone who's created a challenge, it forces you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, or at least to think about stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And if you look at what Till is doing, where he was exploring shapes earlier on, that you wouldn't normally necessarily do if you're not prompted to do it. So I think they're a great way to get you to think outside of your normal routine. And I have to admit, when I was designing, my players potentially went to a serpent city that I have in one of my game worlds. You have to go, well, how would a serpent design a house? Snakes live in burrows, which are basically just an empty chamber that was dug by somebody else, as snakes are not particularly fond of using spades. So what would a serpent structure look like? In this case, what would a hive structure look like? Now, there is the immediate indication that you want to go towards honeycomb idea, or lots of tubes linking in all different kinds of directions and things. But how do you actually express that? So challenges like this, I think, are really, really, really good. And will I build a hive map over the next few days? I wish I had the time to do that. I really do, because I would actually like to experiment and go, well, yes, this is what you can actually end up with. So I'd like to, but yes, will I have the time? I'm not sure. Next question. I love Deos and Dungeon Fog maps, but boys, do you like digital or miniature real tile maps with miniatures? That's an interesting question, actually. LordGodd, have you ever played around with physical tiles for maps and the like?
Yeah, I often play with my kids, and so we play with real miniatures, and I'm constantly trying to collect enough of them to build the adventures that we want and paint them up for them in a hurry.
Have you ever played around with things like Dwarven Forged map tiles, something along those lines, or making cardboard rooms and things?
Yeah, I have some Dwarven Forge components, and I have the Dungeons and Dragons boxed tiles, the reincarnated set.
Do you find that a different experience
between the virtual
sort of doing that and building your own?
Oh, between buying it off the shelf and building my own, I actually vastly prefer building my own, because you get to control it entirely, and then it's also your creative vision and not somebody else's. So right. It's nice because it's quick with the pre-made stuff to set up an adventure, and very often they've considered the modules that are available and things like that. But ultimately, it's more fun to have your own stuff.
Till, your thoughts? You've got a huge mini collection, but do you?
I have a huge mini collection, but I actually I have never played with terrain miniatures. We did with Warhammer 40k, and it was fun because it creates a much more immersive combat if you have that giant terrain setup. And we went to Games Workshop to play there on their pre-built terrains. But for at home, I feel it's very limiting to what I want to do. Whereas a drawing tool is limitless imagination. So I never really got hooked for doing something like that for my home games.
I had the experience at D&D in a Castle recently where I was using printed maps and then also had access to modular terrain. And I used the printed maps almost exclusively, except when I didn't have a printed map. And then there was available terrain. And the terrain, it definitely gave the players a much more visceral experience in terms of seeing the walls around their characters and line of sight. But because the terrain was uneven, oftentimes the little figurines would fall over, the miniatures would fall over or not sit flush. And so a lot of the time they spent trying to balance them, which you don't have to do when you're using a flat map. Again, I guess it really boils down to what kind of experience you prefer. There is something nice about building your own terrain, though, physically, as you say, for Warhammer and that sort of thing.
Don't forget to save, by the way.
Yeah, I just did.
It's so bizarre. You asked me to remind everyone to save, and I've even got here on the script save, and I'm blanking on. I'm keeping. Why do I have to save the text document? Anyway. Right. So that answers that question about terrain, basically. Painting miniatures is just fun. Well, yeah, that depends. But that's not why we're here. So let's see. Right. 14 minutes to go. And I think it's time for us to take a moment now. And we're going to start with LordGodd, I think, just because we can. LordGodd, would you give us the very broadest overview of your current map as it stands?
Absolute chaos. No. So I've tried to add some elements of things like honeycomb in to sort of push that sort of insect hive idea. So this prison is made by these insects, and so they use their hive making abilities to make the cells. And now I've started on the mad scientist component, and he's the one responsible for the puzzle part of this insane prison. So he's got his little workshop down here in this area, which relates to how the prison works. So the players would have to figure out how to work his little device here in order to either, I guess, retain or allow people to leave.
I do like that. I do like that. And in terms of, you've got the cute factor.
Yeah, all the prisoners are issued their own sets of toys. So they have cute bunny rabbits to snuggle, essentially, and toy boats if they prefer that. Yeah.
All right. And then the puzzle, that's the locking mechanism.
Yes. So down here, this locking mechanism relates to the doors. So if you can figure out how to switch the locks the right way, doors will open or close.
Aha. Releasing or not the right prisoners. I do like that. Now, you also built a town.
Yes.
Are you done with that, or are you going to go back to that?
I need to go back to it because it's not where I want it yet, but I'm not 100% sure where to go right now with this. I'm trying to make it as though the hive is a relatively recent thing, and so they've sort of busted their way through the street level down into the hive, and these creatures are coming and going, sort of taking over this town, and there's little that the town can do about it.
Okay, I like the narrative that's being built around your prison. The hive has built a prison, and now the hive is trying to break out, not of its prison, but of the underground. That's pretty cool. You've got an hour and 10 minutes left. Do you think you're going to make it?
If I we'll see. The city part needs some work.
The city part needs some work. Okay, right. Well, yeah, 11 minutes. Good luck.
Thanks.
Till.
Here.
We've got maniacal laughing from LordGodd with regards to
that.
an hour and 11 minutes left. How are you doing? Give us an overview of your dungeon.
I'm doing great because now I remember that we have those cute seals, and I've put them into the prison. This is a little. Those are intelligent, like awakened seals. But they were murder hobos, so they had to be locked up. And now they live in this little frosty cave that I just built for them. I'm going to refine it in a minute. But I do have my layout. I'm done with it. Now I need to decorate rooms, and now I need to structure everything and kind of work a story into it. I do have my trap. my puzzle. I'm quite happy with it because, as you can see, it is like you have to decide. Oh, I need to do something. You need to decide how you rotate that, because either way, it's a problem. You can't simply cross where you want to. So I think I'm going to place. This is the mad scientist place here that controls it, which means a player has to be here while he works the puzzle. So we have a split the party situation here, and I think I like that. I think that is quite funny.
Always fun. And yeah, so that's something cute. That's your puzzle. That's your mad scientist. You've got an hour left. Are you confident you're going to finish?
It's just 1 hour left.
Yes, 1 hour and
well,
9
then
minutes,
I am
seconds.
in total and absolute panic now, because I thought I was like, I still have 1.5 or probably 2 hours left. Okay, well then, Can you please go and bug LordGodd, please?
Oh, there we go. questions from the chat. Let me go and bother everybody else. I've been told to go bother other people. Questions from the chat. Thoughts on the WotC and D&D Beyond news about the merger? LordGodd, any thoughts on the D&D Beyond WotC merger?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
D&D Beyond has made an incredible tool that, especially over the last couple of years, has allowed people to play that maybe have never played before. To be fair, Dungeons & Dragons has a ton of rules, so there's a lot to learn, and letting people come in and play the game without all of the time spent to learn playing up front and sort of working with a character sheet that's more easily sort of adapted.
Populated.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and it certainly allowed us to get off the ground quickly with our campaign. And then it just makes total sense as far as Wizards of the Coast. Now that this tool is up and running and proven, that they left it alone for so long seems strange to me.
They actually had aspirations with 3.5 of releasing a digital product, but that never kind of took off, really. It launched, but it failed almost as soon as it left the gates. Till, what are your thoughts on D&D Beyond being bought out by WotC?
So I agree with LordGodd. I think it was a no-brainer that it eventually would happen. I do think, I mean, there are hopes and there are fears. As a user, I do hope that this will kind of allow the whole thing to speed up a little bit, because there's so many things that they're working on where I'm like, I need more. Make the combat tracker better, make the encounter builder better. There are things that I, as a user, just want. As someone who, as a company, I think it will be much more difficult to approach D&D Beyond in terms of integrations now that they are becoming part of the Hasbro franchise. So mixed feelings about it.
As chat's pointed out, how many people knew that D&D Beyond was actually not owned by WotC and was an independent company that had simply licensed the rights?
Switched 2 times. It was created by Cursed and then bought by Fandom, and now bought by
Hasbro. Yeah,
by Hasbro.
Interesting journey there for them, certainly. Hopefully it will make things easier. As James Robinson points out, I wish they would allow you to link your physical book purchases with the D&D Beyond purchase. Ha ha ha! If they can charge you twice, they certainly will continue to do so.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a free D&D Beyond integration. Of course, I would love to be proven wrong on that score. Don't think it's going to happen, though. Don't think it's going to happen. Okay, next question. How do you make, this is from Xanathog, some great questions coming through from Xanathog this evening. How do you use shadow in your maps? Mine either looks pitch black or doesn't have an effect on the map at all. Well, LordGodd's been working with quite a lot of shadow recently. So, LordGodd, how do you make your maps, your shadows, work for your maps?
So the easiest way for me to do it is to pick a direction that the sun is coming from, especially if we're above ground, and have all of the shadows be just an approximate shape of what is in the way of the sunlight, and then it's just the brush tool and using pure black and altering the opacity so that it's not 100%, and that kind of gives like the shadowy effect that I'm looking for. In the case of some props, you can literally just clone them, make them completely black and reduce the opacity, like trees, and you can sort of simulate a very exacting tree. Shadow, rather.
Absolutely. So you're not using any light sources within Dungeon Fog. You're just making your own.
I do use the light sources, but right now I'm only using the sort of artificial shadows that I'm creating myself.
Right, lovely. Till, do you have any tricks on shadows within Dungeon Fog?
I do the same thing as LordGodd, where I use the brush to create interesting shadows where I feel like they're necessary. As you can see here, I've used the brush tool to create this cliff effect, or to enhance the cliff effect. But then I try to work with the lighting system and the shadows that are created through the lighting. However, I cheat a lot in there, which means not every prop casts a shadow. I'm looking at the map and the scene, and I'm asking myself what shadow creates an interesting effect. And then that one creates a shadow. So not everything has to create a shadow. And there's also the trick as to work with the intensity of the light sources. We will hopefully see that in a minute when I'm with the shadows and the lighting, I mean.
Well, there we go. Hopefully, absolutely. Are you going to use lights in your map, Till?
Yes.
And LordGodd, are you going to use lights?
Yeah, I actually already have in the prison area.
Ah, right. Okay.
I have all of. I think the mad scientist has adopted something that he found down here as part of his machinations.
I like that. All right. Well, 2 minutes to go before we add in the fourth component to the map of craziness. And another question. Craft Crazy RPG says, nice answer, LordGodd. Do either of you use dynamic shadows during your games? Love the line of sight and lighting in Roll20, for example. Do either of you make use of those line of sight blockers and fog of war in VTTs? I see Till, you're nodding. Talk to us a little bit about how do you...
Yes. Whether I'm using the Dungeon Fog VTT or Foundry, which I fell in love with about half a year ago, I do use... so first of all, my maps use the Universal VTT export, so all the dynamic lighting wall settings are already exported with the Dungeon Fog map, and I just need to plop that map into Foundry using the Universal VTT importer. And then I play a lot with light sources in there and the Fog of War, because I think that's super interesting. When you want to reveal the map to your players, you want them to progress through the map rather than see the whole layout, because you can't avoid metagaming. When you can see the whole layout, you will automatically make up your mind and your strategy how to approach that.
Makes sense. LordGodd, anything to add to that?
The virtual tabletop that I use doesn't have dynamic lighting, but it does have Fog of War, and certainly I think that's important to the storytelling part of the game. You need to be able to hide things and reveal them at the right time. Otherwise, your players might never go towards the giant lava pit.
That's entirely true. They never seem to want to go to the giant lava pits voluntarily, do they? No, never, ever. Damn those uncooperatives. AK Writer asked the question, this is to Till. If LordGodd wins today's competition, will he then take over doing the Mapness videos until you rematch and reclaim your title?
The Welcome to the Madness, the weekly map making videos. Well, he's certainly invited to join me in one of those, or to host one of those if he licked the blood. I don't know how you say it, but if he found the enjoyment in streaming content, and why not? But we're also looking at a new streaming schedule where I finally have the time to return and do more of those streams later down the year.
Watch your social media for updates on that, or join the Dungeon Fog Discord server. Hopefully the link will go into the chat. I'm not sure. We've got Lazarus seems to be,
and Chris I think is there too.
And Chris is there as well. All right. Hopefully they'll share the Discord server. You can join and chat there. Get all the latest updates on all of the live shows that will be coming up from Dungeon Fog. Now, there are just 59 minutes and 19 seconds left until this competition is over.
Oh, no.
59 minutes and 10 seconds left now. And I have to say, both maps are looking... Actually, they're looking pretty good. I mean, if I were to say right now, I would say that LordGodd's looks a bit more finished.
Yeah, definitely.
Than Till's. But is LordGodd's interesting as opposed to Till's in terms of design, in terms of including the various requirements, the mad scientist, the puzzle, the something cute, the hive? Is that coming through? That's an interesting question, which you will get to answer for all of us when you go and cast your vote on these two maps from tomorrow onwards. You can go and vote on which of these two maps you think is the best, and will ultimately crown the map maker. If you've just joined us, or if you didn't participate at the beginning of the stream, next week, Thursday, same time as this stream, we will be revealing who you have voted as the winner of the Map Making Madness 2022. And that should hopefully be based on authentic, genuine answers to the maps as they are presented. Some more questions that have come through here. LordGodd, how many maps do you think you have made in Dungeon Fog?
We were looking at this earlier, and I think probably like between 3 and 5 dozen maps.
3 and 5 dozen maps. So I'm just translating that into real numbers. So 3 and 5 dozen. My old English is not up to snuff. Would that be a baker's dozen or a regular dozen?
I guess probably somewhere between 40 and 60 maps.
There we go. Now, I saw a meme today, or I don't know if it was a meme or if it was just a government-issued piece of information for people visiting Canada on the Canadian approach to metric versus imperial. And it very much depends on a whole bunch of different factors, as there doesn't seem to be consensus on either side. If you talk about your height, you use feet and inches. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Apparently, when you talk about the number of maps you've made, you use dozens and scores of dozens. So yes, there we go. So probably 40 or 50 maps. Till, how many maps do you think you've made in Dungeon Fog?
Oh my god. I think about 800.
800.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We've been looking at who created the most maps, and someone in the team said, well, that must be Till. And I was like, yeah, probably, because I'm testing a lot and I'm map making all of the time. However, we found that there is a user that actually has over 1,200 maps.
Wow. So
I'm not the one with the most maps in the system. But if I remember correctly, it was around 800 maps that I have created.
Good heavens. Well, there we go. Right. I've given you 5 minutes of grace. Or have I taken 5 minutes of your life away? Let's see. We're voting now on the next map element to be added. The penultimate map element to be added. Please throw your vote into chat so we can figure out what needs to be added to their nearly completed dungeons. Please do not vote for number 3, number 10, or number 17, as we have had those already. Vote for any of the other numbers, and everyone in chat can calculate quickly who they think or what they think has been voted for the most, and then we will reveal it to our wonderful, wonderful designers. If you can switch, please, designers.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry.
Oh, there's one number that... there's one number that seems to be definitely at the forefront. Oh, yes, absolutely. It looks to be a race between the higher numbers. I'm going to give it another 20 seconds. But I think it's in the bag. Yeah. And this one, folks.
Oh, I don't like that laugh.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And right, that's it. I'm calling it. This is it. You have to add in a place where a different plane has bled through.
Oh, yes!
Oh, someone's happy. LordGodd, you don't seem too happy about that.
Actually, after 2 seconds of considering it, maybe I think I have something, but I certainly didn't plan for it.
Till you're very
plane comes in. Okay.
A different plane comes in. Till you seem very excited.
Yes, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I've hoped for. Because
with 50 minutes left to go.
With 50 minutes left to go, it is actually, I was not sure whether I want to go down that route, but now it is confirmed. Now I'm going to do it. And it's stressing me just a little bit, but we can make it work.
Oh, how much time? Oh, no.
52 minutes and 50 seconds.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Or to put it another way, 22 minutes until the final edition. You can both switch back. Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they make of this new challenge, where a different plane has bled in. In a way, it's kind of difficult that we haven't given them a specific type of plane. What sort of plane would you recommend that they add? Is it a plane, the astral plane, the plane of fire, the plane of water, some kind of bizarre alternative plane, semi-plane, demi-plane, pocket plane, multiverse plane? I think when we look to potential sources of reference, there are so many different types of planes that we could add in. Could it be an aeroplane? I had to do it. I mean, I had to say it, right?
Oh, God, Guy.
Yeah, it's late. All right. And, you know, I figured, why not? So, yeah, there we go. A plane of pirates leaking in. A pirate plane. Some people voting for a Cessna. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Till still has to do most of the lighting, says Elarian76.
Thank you.
We're not going to tell him that. We're not going to tell him that. So he's got a lot of those things to do. Yeah. 22 minutes. Well, less than that now. 20 minutes to the next component being added. So we shall see. Right, back to more questions whilst you both are frantically working on planar additions, I guess. What is your favourite prop? Till, what's your favourite prop? Do you have a favourite prop?
Well, if you look at my map, it must be the new cliffs. I've been using them so often. But I can't tell it. I don't know. Nope. I do love the, as you can see, I do love the clockworks, the things. They are so amazing if you want to do stuff. The clockwork set is really cool. But if I would have to name one prop that I really favor at the moment, I must say it's that cliff. It's that coming cliff up everywhere.
LordGodd, do you have a go-to prop?
Right now, trees cover a lot of empty space.
They do. They really are good at filling the void, as it were. Oh dear. I see I've got competition in chat in terms of jokes. We've got Craft Crazy RPG saying Till's map is a real cliffhanger. Yes, it is indeed. Right, so that's your favourite prop. What's your favourite prop, those of you watching? I know all of you use Dungeon Fog in one way or shape, form or another. What is your favourite prop? If I have to think about my favourite prop from all of the different props that are out there, I think I'd have to say it must be the Victorian blood prop of all of the different props. Because I love to use that to just create random texture over tiles of normal texture. You drop that down to like 20% opacity, make it completely dark, no color in it, throw it on top of stuff, as you can see LordGodd busy doing right there, and bingo, suddenly you've got this interesting shape that's starting to take place. Yep, craft crazy RPG, blood, absolutely. The barrel, says Xanathog. Barrels do come in handy. I must admit, I'm more of the pirates prop barrel user than the traditional fantasy barrel user, just because I like the more vivid color in the pirate barrel than smoke, says AK Writer. Oh yes, smoke is always good at adding in some atmosphere, no doubt about that. Absolutely. So yes, very, very much so. Everyone's saying blood spots. Dead bodies, says Arak Van Rocks a lot. Dead bodies are also awesome. Although I do find the dead bodies, I'm often kind of scaling them to try and make them fit within a 10-foot square. And then you realize how small a 10-foot square, or how big a 10-foot square is in comparison to a body. Useful if you're trying to measure to hide bodies. 10-foot square is more than enough space for those of you that are interested. And I'm talking about obviously in map making and nowhere else. Smoke is great. I use it to make a sauna recently. Yeah, absolutely. Cliff trees a prop. Absolutely. Right. Next question for you all. What would you add to Dungeon Fog? Let's start with you, Till. What would you add to Dungeon Fog currently? What do you think's missing?
So there's a lot of things coming at the moment. The next thing coming up is a better prop library. So this one, the prop picker here, that is not usable anymore, and I think that needs to be reworked, and it is coming within the next, I would say, weeks. After that, we do want to bring the editor itself into a newer rendering version, which is quite exciting, because alongside with that finally will come a rework of the room drawing tool, which I think is, with all the shapes and the paths and all that stuff in there, creating rooms has become the least intuitive tool. And so that needs to be reworked, and I'm looking forward until the day when we start that process, because that is going to be exciting, because it's going to be much more based on the way that paths work, where walls actually can have probably a bit of a perspective, but definitely shapes like brickstone walls or solid rock walls and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that they're coming at some point. It makes me excited. I love those ideas. LordGodd, would you add anything, or what would you add to Dungeon Fog?
I don't know what I would add. I really like it, so it's hard to think of what I could add to it. I think maybe a tiny tweak to the lights and changing how the center of the source works so that I could make it a straight line. That would be the only thing I'd add.
Okay, noted.
A straight line of light, like a beam.
So that you could put it right up against the window without an arc. That's
yes, directional lighting. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good ad. What would you folks add to Dungeon Fog? Leave us some comments. You never know. It may just find its way into Dungeon Fog. I'm just saying we do have the boss sitting right there. So, isometric props, says Alarian76.
That would be neat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Isometric props. I think that would be a whole new category of prop. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There we go. Right. 43 minutes remaining. Those are the sounds that map makers make when they discover they only have a limited amount of time left. So, yes, 43 minutes remaining. Next question. And I don't know. I'm not going to give this one any context whatsoever. LordGodd, if you were a map, what kind of map would you be?
I would be a sailing ship.
Okay, I'm afraid to ask why.
Because of where I grew up.
On the sea?
I grew up next to the sea.
Aha. Okay, there we go. A sailing ship.
Very difficult question.
Till, what kind of map would you be?
That's a terrible question for that time of the evening. Oh my god. I think, and now LordGodd had a great answer too. That's terrible. I would be a vacational island map because that's where I want to be right now.
A vacational island map. There we go. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Vacational island map. I think I'd probably be a crazy library that's filled with those books that you go, oh, that's awfully interesting. Then you realize it's actually not that interesting as you start to read it. So there we are. If you think you would be an interesting map, let us know what kind of map you'd be. 40 minutes remaining. 41 minutes and 50 seconds, but why split hairs? 11 minutes until we add in the final component of tonight's map. Yes, there's more to come, folks. So we look forward to that one. I've got some questions here from chat. Where are we? Don't forget to save, by the way, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Jack Linder asks, if you could use living creatures to make difficult terrain, what creature horde would you unleash on your players?
Ooh, nice. So I actually did something comparable in our Curse of Strahd game 4 years ago, where I was unleashing like thousands and thousands. On the was it Christmas Islands where the crabs are crawling out of the sea. I used the same with small, white, glowing spiders that were coming down a hill, and when you step on them, it becomes slippery, which means the more you wade through those masses while they attack you, the more difficult it gets to move. And that was what I did, and I think that was quite hilarious.
Fun. LordGodd?
What was the question again?
If you could use living creatures to make difficult terrain, what creature horde would you unleash on your players?
Maybe something like a slime mold that was just impossible to walk on.
Molds are always fun. The players always get very, very nervous around mold. A suggestion here is tribbles.
Ooh, nice. Love them.
Thousands of crawling hands. Thousands of cousin its. Crawling hands could be quite fun. As difficult terrain, absolutely. I had a opportunity to write a monster into one of the monsters books for a Kickstarter once, and we came up with the Mankey, which is a form of cat that has 6 legs and has no hair. It's a hairless cat. It's all white, and when you kill the Mankey, it explodes in a giant ball of white goop, which is easily washed off, but actually leaves a permanent wizard mark upon whoever has been coated in this Mankey exploded liquid, which allows the wizard to then track you throughout the plane. So in killing it, you're actually fulfilling its function. That was quite a fun write-up. Yeah. Hordes of kobolds. Sounds less and less like a cat. Yeah, absolutely. Crunchy, slippery, snapping crabs. Yeah, that would be pretty good too. Hordes of goblins, difficult terrain. Yeah. Or slugs. I think slugs would just be difficult terrain. Walk over it at your peril. Just because it's going to make a horrid noise as you... So, there we are. Right, 8 minutes to go until the final component is added. Chat seems to be threatening pirates, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Chat will go where chat will go. Right, I'm looking at questions here. Torben BK says, question or a suggestion. Would love to be able to change colors on all props, that you can change the orc color so it could be so you could have different tribes, for example, or trees so that it's fey, for example. So getting into the actual colors within the props could be quite fun.
Oh, you mean like we're doing with Deus, where you actually can change specific colors on the prop instead of just recoloring the full prop. Yeah, exactly. that would be really cool. It's terribly difficult though, because the props have to be designed specifically to fulfill that purpose. But we do know about a few tweaks we can do to allow you to adjust specific colors. We just haven't found the time yet to actually book that into our development schedule.
All things in time. All things in time. Right. 6 minutes to go before the next prop. 36 minutes remaining on the clock. Very quickly, LordGodd, are you feeling confident?
Maybe a little more. I think I've started to achieve, at least in the prison area, the sort of aesthetic that I was looking for once learning what the criteria were. Still not 100% on my city side, so.
Till, how are you feeling?
I'm almost done.
Almost done, he says, with confidence and calmness. And you're not worried about this final component?
Oh, right. No. Boo.
Wow. There's a challenge. There's a challenge.
I can tell you now, about 1.5 hours ago, I filled this with whiskey. So I'm like, oh.
Oh, there we go. Another suggestion.
That's real bravery.
Yeah. What, filling it with whiskey or
during this, for certainly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Weather effects, animated maps. Yes, we'd love to have animated effects. Rain and snow and wind, I suppose. Could be great to add to the whole thing. Right. Now, Till seems lost in regards of the battle. No track of what is still open.
No, I know that the last challenge is going to break my neck. I'm pretty certain that this is not going to end well.
Okay, there we are. I think chat's pretty convinced that slugs as a difficult terrain where your player characters have to be barefoot is just a nasty way to go. So they are explosions, lightning bolts, and that would be awesome too. There is one lightning discharge that was with the laboratory, I think.
Yep, here.
One lightning bolt. I think that's the only lightning bolt, actually.
I actually have it on the map.
Yeah, that's true. There's some sparks from the Bounty Hunter pack. But I can't think of any other electrical discharges. Are there paths for lightning bolts?
No, not yet, but it is on the list because we know that we want to. So we're currently going through all the assets that have been released, and we look at them and say, okay, what can we do as a path? And that is one.
3 minutes to go before the next challenge. A real quick question to LordGodd. Do you think there's a difference between real-world maps, as in real-world architecture, and RPG maps? If so, what?
Between real-world maps and architecture, yeah, there definitely is, because you can do completely fanciful things in these battle maps. You can do things that couldn't possibly exist in reality. One of the maps that I recently made was just a series of chains holding together rocks in space. So that the players were intended to walk on. So you can make whatever you want.
You're not bound, you don't think. Till?
Come again? Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Is there a difference between real-world maps and RPG maps? Yeah, is there a difference, do you think? Should there be a difference?
Well, are we talking battle maps? Then yes,
yeah,
definitely. Because whereas a real world battle map is a blueprint. That is an architectural blueprint that someone designed to create a building, where the purpose is to fulfill its function and its requirements, and also stay cost efficient in doing so most of the time. Whereas we are creating something that has one main purpose, and that is bringing fun to our players and create something interesting for them. So while we are still trying to incorporate some extent of believability and immersion by paying tribute to architectural relationship, it's not the main goal to create an architectural correct map. Our main goal should be to create a fun encounter map or a fun map for our players. So I would say there is definitely a difference. Was that the question? I got confused.
Well, that's definitely an answer, and I think a pretty good answer. Right, 1 minute remaining until we add in the final challenge for tonight, with just 31 minutes remaining until this whole thing is over and we can all go home and possibly drink some of that alcohol that Till appears to have already been drinking.
I was joking. Oh my god.
The great scandal. There we go.
Definitely going to open a beer once this is over. But now I need to stay focused and concentrated.
Focused and calm. Another question, I think, with 1 minute to go. This is really just for you, Till. Lazarus asks, when is the community asset pack coming?
The community asset pack is eventually coming after we have finished the next asset pack, because we created a queue at Tony's. He was like, oh my god, I need to do this, I need to do that. He had to do the Mimic Easter search, which by the way went amazing. We had over 220 people taking part in the Easter hunt. For
I think I counted 15. I don't know. Anyway,
tomorrow is going to end the second period. So I'm not going to answer whether or not you were correct or not. But yeah, so we do have quite a few suggestions, and now we just need to work off all the things that we have, and then we'll eventually come back to that.
All right. Well, it's that time. Switch, please, gentlemen. We are about to find out what is the last map component to be added. Chat, They both seem very calm. They both seem very confident that their maps are nearly finished. So please vote now for which component you want added. Do not vote for number 3 or for number 10, for number 17 or for number 20, if you please. So at the moment, there is one number that seems to be prevailing at the moment. Please don't vote for number 20. It's already been voted for. But it's being hotly fought. It's being hotly fought with another number. So far it's down to either number 1 or number 16. Either it's full of pirates, arr,
Arr!
arr,
I like that, by the way. Go for pirates.
or if it's 16, a place of worship in the middle of this crazy prison built by insane hive minds in the middle of a city that contains something cute with a puzzle, a mad scientist, and a different plane already. Right. So I think we're going to close it in 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's pirates.
Oh,
Number 1.
Yes.
Army hearties, add in some pirates if you please.
Oh boy.
Where be the pirates? Somewhere in the hive mind prison, no doubt. So there you go. Hive pirates.
Oh boy.
Okay, switch if you please.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry.
Pirates.
Very good question come through from Arok Van Roxalot. When it comes to mapping an area that's populated by beings, so in both your instances, you've got cities, do you put in random NPCs onto the map, or would you rather put them in as tokens or as minis once you finish the map? So, Till.
I don't. If it's remotely becoming an NPC, it's not going on the map, because then it is, for me, then if it's part of the map, it's baked into the imagery of the map. Whereas NPCs, monsters, enemies, whatever it is, those for me are minis that I put on the map, or tokens if I play on a VTT through remote gaming. So I would never place something like that on my map itself, because then it gets static, I think.
There we go. LordGodd?
Yeah, I think I try and keep the map itself token free, and that gives me flexibility about what is visiting this space.
Yeah, that's true. Like pirates, for example.
Yeah, pirates.
Can you give me a good R, LordGodd?
Arr.
R, that's a good R. Till, what's your R like? R, there we go. Right. Okay. Illithid pirates. Illithid pirates is being suggested. They don't want your brains, they want your booty. I guess. Something along those lines. Right, let's do our final visit in. So let's start with Till. Till, talk to us. How are you going to include pirates in your map? You don't even seem bothered by it. You're busy doing text.
Yes, they come in. No, it's brilliant. So when you voted on the different plane bleeding in, I knew what to do. So the insane creators of that place actually ripped the sheets between the planes open so that we have the astral plane bleeding in to this prison. Which means that you need to go, so you can see that with the star sea that I've created,
Yes.
and the bridge that you can go across, which again works somehow with the style of the map. Now I can have astral sea pirates coming with an airship in, trying to free one of their prisoners, and they have docked the airship somewhere and are now trying to get in there. So all I need to do now is quickly build an airship, and I'm done with it.
You have 23 minutes and 44 seconds to quickly build an airship.
Thank you. Yes, that's...
As they would say, can Till build his airship in the time remaining? If he fails to do so, it could cause him to lose the entire competition. The pressure is on.
The pressure is on.
All right. Now, we can see what... well, you can't. I can. You can now. LordGodd, I see pirates.
Yep. Pirates.
That's the plan.
I think the pirates have discovered what the insects were after here, and so now they're plundering this city for those resources and making away with what they can.
So your simple canal, which you added to your city, has now actually come to save you.
Yeah.
I like that. What are your thoughts when it comes to making maps feel more realistic? A question here is, I know that we deal in fantasy, but it's still nice to have a feel of realism. What do you do, LordGodd, to make your maps feel more realistic?
I think things that are familiar lend themselves to being the realism. So certainly things like carts. Like there wouldn't be a city without a cart. There wouldn't be a city without some sort of infrastructure like roads and just keeping in those things that are sort of more mundane tend to lend themselves to being the realistic aspects. So like in the case of a building, it would be laid out in a way that would normally be more convenient. Now in the insane prison, it seems to be less so. But I think oddly things that are more mundane tend to be the stuff that makes it more realistic.
Absolutely makes sense. Do you often find yourself struggling to think of what should go into a room and then sort of falling back on what makes sense to be there? How do you go about that?
In what sense struggling to?
So you said when you started this map that you had created almost more rooms than you knew what to do with. How do you go about filling up those rooms?
I guess that is a symptom of being in such a rushed panic, is not knowing how much space I was going to try and fill up.
Right.
But how do I go about filling the rooms up? I think about what the function of the room is, and then I mean, the asset library is already sort of laid out in obvious choices, so it's easy to sort of put, like if you're making a bedroom, it's easy to find beds, it's easy to find chairs and things like that. But then when it gets down to the flavor part, which is like, well, whose bedroom is this and why? What things would that person have? So in the case of like a child's bedroom, there would be toys. It would be more colorful likely than an adult's bedroom, or like a king's bedroom would be full of more opulent things. Those are the choices that make it seem more realistic.
Yeah,
for me.
Sense. Anyway. Sure, I agree. I think that's an excellent answer. Absolutely. It's interesting how both of you are playing with the same colors in these chambers. I've only just noticed that now, looking at your maps side by side. Lots of purples, greens, and blues. What do you feel when you see those kind of colors, LordGodd? Why did you go specifically for those colors? Let me ask you that question instead.
They were totally random. I thought the purple was a bit unique for like a planar entrance. I thought that kind of lended itself well there. And then green is kind of eerie, and we're trying to do mad scientist stuff, so it seemed to make sense at the time. I don't know if that's true.
It made sense at the time. I like that. Till, why did you choose greens and purples?
Well, because I already knew that I want to emphasize on the cosmic part of this map. So the lighting, the different colors separate the different areas that are going to take place. So if you actually see, I've lit the pirate ship in a light green, which means that the pirates might be, or the pirate they want to free might be in this green cell block area. Whereas now I have the awakened seals here locked in this ice prison up here, which I gave the blue. I'm not sure whether or not this area stays blue, because now I'm trying to work in my hive mind into the whole thing. But here I definitely worked with purples and greens and blues just to emphasize on the astro star weirdness of that insane thing.
There you go. I think we all kind of have been trained in some way to think of the astral space as being a kaleidoscope of purples and blues and that sort of thing. So I think there's a comment that we missed how Till does his shadows. I think you're going to be... When are you doing another mapping it out anytime? Not mapping it out. Mapness anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, because it's a lot of work coming up in May, and then so I can't tell you when. But if you're interested, all the Welcome to the Mapness streams that I did last year, they're all on our YouTube channel, and you can watch them. Just pick any of them. I'm always doing light and shadows, so regardless whether video you pick, you will see me doing that in there.
There we go. As with 16 minutes remaining,
Woohoo!
we are near the end of this challenge. I think it's going to be very difficult to vote on these two maps. LordGodd, would you say you have included all 5 additional requirements?
Okay, so there I have cute, puzzle, mad scientist, different plane. Did I miss anything?
And pirates.
Pirates, yes. I have pirates, yes.
All right, so you've got all 5, you reckon?
I believe so.
All right. Till, do you think you've got all 5?
Cute, check. Puzzle, check. Mad scientist, check. Plane, bleeding through, check. And pirates, check.
Pirates. All right. Both of them seem to have everything down. I think we need to change this competition to make it just 2 hours long. Really put the pressure.
Oh, yeah, but then you are going to be part of that again.
Right. So, there we have it. Let me just see. There was a question from chat that I know I missed. Torben BK asks, since the new D&D books will be Spelljammer and Dragonlance, I'm not sure, has that been confirmed that is going to be the next two?
It hasn't been officially confirmed, but I think it has been leaked that it is highly realistic. That's at least what I know.
Yes, a genuine imitation product. So, well, if Spelljammer and Dragonlance are the next two books to come out from WotC, do you think that we are going to see more props for different styles of airships, different types of landscapes like floating citadels and the like? Till, was that something that would be on the cards?
Yes. I would love to. I'm very much into the whole Spelljammer universe. So I hope for that to be the next book that they release, or the next setting, and we definitely want to do Like if that comes out, that might be one of the big new things that we want to do. Like we constantly, once or twice a year, we have a big setting release. And for this year, we have been actually waiting for what is coming, what actually qualifies for a big, that would be one. And I think tonight, isn't it tonight that there is?
It was already, chat was saying, it was announced 4 hours ago.
And they did, right? So that's why you know
it.
It
has been confirmed. Yes,
oh,
today
brilliant.
in the stream. Spelljammer and Dragonlance confirmed at
brilliant.
D&D Direct. Yes. So that's very exciting. I've never played in the Spelljammer space, actually. Because when was the last... Was there one for 3.5? D&D? Well, you don't know, because you never played 3.5.
I never... And I think we both never played 3.5.
Oh, well, all right then, chat. Those of you who are as old as I am. I remember Spelljammer for D&D 2nd edition. What is Spelljammer, says the Incubus. That's a very good question. Spelljammer is coming August 16th. There we go. August 16th. So, nautiloid shells and things like that. I think that could be quite exciting to add in. Mostly space wizards.
That's a very good summary of it.
Mostly space wizards. I like that. And giant hamsters. Yes, I remember giant hamsters. Or space hamsters or something like that. Gerbils. I'm not sure. Right, 12 minutes, 50 seconds. The new D&D movie. Yes, absolutely. The new D&D movie coming out. It should be interesting, hopefully. Have either of you seen the original D&D movie with Jeremy Irons?
Yeah.
I take it you were not impressed.
No, well, it was okay. It was not mind-blowing. Was that done by Uwe Boll?
I do not know the director, no.
I do think it was. I think at least Uwe Boll did a few D&D things, and I'm not a big fan of him. So it was like, I do look forward for the new one.
The new one, yeah. Hopefully they get stuff right.
Yeah, hopefully they get stuff right.
Yeah. Anyway. Right, folks, if you've got any last-minute questions, now is the time to ask them. Put the word question in front of your question so I can see it. Remember that voting, although the voting will technically open up, already is open, the maps will only be loaded up tomorrow, and then you get to vote on them. And there are 5 categories that you get to look at. And those categories are, in no particular order, did the contestant fulfill the basic parameters? Now, the basic parameters of tonight's maps was hive beings, insane hive beings, have built have built a prison in a city. Insane hive beings have built a prison in a city. That's what needed to be done in the map. That's the very basic that needs to be done in the map. Then, second voting point is how good was the content, the creator on meeting the challenges. Now, those 5 challenges was to add something cute, to add a puzzle, to add a mad scientist or mad scientist place, to add a different plane breaking through or bleeding through, and then to add pirates into the map. So I think a lot of interesting things were voted on by you this evening to do that. So thank you for participating on that. So we look at those 2 things. Then overall, the creativity. When you look at the map, does the map make you interested in looking further? Do you want to look further in this map? Do you want to explore this map? Is it creative? Are there spaces that you can go and look at? Is it creative? Then aesthetically, is the map aesthetically pleasing? Do you want to look at this map? Do you kind of look and go, oh, that's beautiful, or that's hideous, but it's meant to be hideous. It's meant to inspire loathing or fear or hatred. Is it something along those lines? And then finally, is it a good battle map to actually use in your game? because that's the whole point of making battle maps, is for use in your game. So those are the five criterion. Those are what you need to go and look at and vote on. And to do so, you go to www.dungeonfog.com/map battle madness, and you can then cast your votes. From tomorrow, you'll be able to see those maps. Now, voting will run until next week, Thursday the 28th, when we will return to announce the winner and the new champion of the Map Battle Madness 2022. Now, you will also be able to participate in a community challenge later on in the year, where you could potentially be sitting in the hot seat facing off whomever wins next week to try and dethrone them and claim your title in a future Map Madness Battle Madness Madness Battle Madness Map Battle. 8 minutes 38 seconds remaining. I forgot to bring up a slide. The slide said you're nearly out of time.
Finish them.
Finish them. Finish your maps. 8 minutes 25 seconds remaining. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Here it comes. Are you prepared? I'm prepared. I'm ready for it. Question from Jack Linder. Have you taken a standard trap and subverted it? If so, what sort of trap, and what did you do to change it up? Till, have you ever taken a basic trap and changed it somehow?
To be honest, I kind of change every trap. Like if you mean from a pre-written adventure, and the adventure says, well, there is this trap that triggers. I do think I've never really followed the book. I've always tried to anticipate how my players think, so how they would solve or perceive that thing, and I've modified it in a way that it actually might work on them.
Makes sense. LordGodd, have you ever modified a standard trap?
I actually don't use traps that often. I guess the only way that I've modified traps is that I try to use it as a storytelling thing. So I really use the fail forward aspect of stuff. So if you fall into a trap, it's more about the consequences of that, of what happens to you trying to get out of it, I guess, I think that's
right.
More interesting.
Yeah, true, very true. I had a trap where the players, it was a false floor and they fell into the trap, and it was a pit of snakes. Only the snakes had all died as there was no one left to feed them. And so instead of the players being bitten by venomous snakes, they took piercing damage from landing on all of the little bones that were left at the bottom. As a way of changing it up a little bit. But yes, I think traps are more interesting in terms of the players being able to solve them, and not necessarily solve them the way that you intended them to solve them, but to have spent some time trying to figure out how to solve them. I think those are really useful. 5 minutes 50 seconds. 5 minutes 50 seconds. By now you should be placing your labels. If you want to use labels, you should be hitting that save button just in case. And going through any final thoughts. Till, is there anything that you've forgotten to place on your map?
Well, probably. But right now, I'm following your recommendation, and I'm going through. Oh, come on, please load. Don't break on me now. I'm trying to put my labels everywhere.
You're trying to put in labels. Okay. LordGodd, anything you've forgotten?
I'm sure. Right now I'm adding bird poop, so that's that mundane stuff.
I beg your pardon, you're adding what?
Bird poop.
Bird poop.
Yep.
Ooh, nice.
I'm not familiar with that particular prop. What are you using for that? Moss?
Oh,
no.
I guess probably you've uncovered my favorite prop. Actually, is the Victorian blood.
Oh, right. how cruel not to feed the snakes for that trap. Well, this is something that I talk about, is that if you're going to build traps into your dungeons or into your maps, they need to, if they have to be serviced, like snake traps, for example. Someone has to feed those snakes, and do they have to jump through all of the previous traps in order to get to the snakes to feed the snakes? I don't think so. So there should always be a secret entrance or a back door. And frequently my players find the back doors that I build into the dungeons and get into the dungeon that way, and think themselves very, very clever because they've worked out, a secret way in. And you go, well, yes, you are very, very clever, and that's a very, very good thing to do, is to have done your homework and to have done your research and found the way that the servants go in to service stuff. One of my favorite examples of that is the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark scene with all of the snakes that come crawling in through the walls. In reality, they had about 2,500 real snakes, but by the time they were finished filming, a lot of those snakes had actually perished, not from malcare or malnutrition, just from being in the desert and all kinds of things. And you go, well, if a film crew can't keep snakes alive for a couple of weeks, what are the chances of those snakes surviving for a lengthy period of time without being fed and nurtured for? Or a trap, as pointed out, full of slugs. A trap full of slugs. Ew. Oh my goodness. That's just awful. It's slugs all the way down. Slugs, 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 slugs. 3 minutes! 3 minutes remaining.
Holy shit.
3 minutes. AK Wright asked a good question. How important are labels for you, LordGodd? Do you put labels on your maps normally?
No, not usually. I don't have a good reason why. I just don't.
You just don't? All right. Till, are you a labeler?
Only for, like, not on a map that is so detailed as we're doing it right now. I do have my, what I call a GM's map, which is just a very rough sketch of the area that I want to have to look at things and understand where is what. There I put labels because that helps me. With one look at the map, I understand where are my players roughly, what is coming up, where are they going to. So I use that more like a concept layout map for myself to run the game smoothly. And there I put labels. I don't know why I would put labels on a map that I show my players, except for city maps, by the way, where I do put labels, but they need to uncover them first. So they're not labeled in the first place, but once they learn about a place, then I reveal the label.
There you go. 1 minute, 45 seconds.
Woohoo!
All right. So we are drawing to an end. It's been interesting. I certainly can't decide yet. I've only seen these maps as screen shares on a very small window. Same as you folks. Can't wait to see them uploaded. They will be uploaded tomorrow. So go and check them out. dungeonfog.com/map battle madness. Who is the victor? Who is the victor? Well, that's for you to decide, and everyone else who votes. Remember to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know that you find these streams enjoyable. If you've just been listening along, I suggest now in the last 50 seconds that you check out these maps here on the stream. They really are quite beautiful, I would have to say. In 3 hours, gentlemen, both of you have done some amazing work. We'll find out who's done slightly more amazing work next week.
Are we going to do a little final presentation at the end of the stream?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because
absolutely.
I haven't seen. I didn't have any chance to look at
No.
Kyle's map, LordGodd's map. So I was like, "Phew, what's
10
that
seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Oh, look at them both sitting back. 4, 3, 2, 1, and your time is up. Your time is up. Your time is up.
Okay,
Save, and that's it.
Breathe.
And now
Save
breathe.
and breathe. Right, and
Yes.
probably switch to full screen. I know, not yet.
No, not yet. We'll do a walkthrough first. So
Before we do
there
that,
we
can
are.
I quickly
Yes.
ask, Lord God, you've been watching the last Welcome to the Madness and Map Battle Madness, where Guy and I were competing. Now you've been part of it. How do you feel?
How do I feel?
Yeah.
It is way more stressful being on this side, and it's not 3 hours to make a map. If I knew what the criteria were ahead of time, might not be so bad, but because it's constantly changing, that's very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and you also you want to impress, so you're you can't just say, fuck it, I don't do that. That no one cares about that one. You need to, and you want to show something pretty. So, and thank you again. You did an amazing map at the community contest. Now, I know that it can be stressful to come on stream, but you decided to do so, and I want to thank you very much. I haven't seen your map. I'm very curious to see how it looks, but it was a lot of fun doing it with you. So congratulations, and now you know the pain.
Thanks for having me. This has been excellent fun. I really hope that this goes on and on and on.
Oh no, now I'm looking at your map I see how
All right, let's bring up your map. Sir LordGodd, would you give us the grand tour of your map, if you please?
Okay, so just to walk down the list. So this is the city aspect. The city has been invaded by a hive, which the entrance is up at the top, down into the hive. They've broken through into the street. And on top of that, they're currently being besieged by pirates who have entered through the canal at the top of the map as well. So this poor peaceful city is under attack. And then if we move downward,
just before you go down, wouldn't you show us some of the areas, because we're just seeing a small picture of the map. If you'd zoom in on some of your points on this map.
Sure. So trying to build here's the pirates who have moved down into the hive, and they're trying to steal things out of that hive with their little ship that they've brought into this little city canal here. And the entrance to the hive is here, which is broken through into the street, into this little city. And then moving downward, we enter into the underground space that is this hive prison.
Yes.
So coming down the ladder, and you enter into the sentencing room of this space, which is quite unusual because it seems to be a series of fair games to determine how long you will be here, which is a little crazy, I guess.
It is insane.
And then the hive-like prison structures are all built out here in their sort of semi-honeycomb. The kitchen is right in front of all the prisoners here, and it seems like maybe some untoward meals are prepared. As far as cute goes, each prisoner is issued their set of toys to cuddle with while they're stuck here. Then the planar gate that the insectoids have moved into this space.
Beautiful.
Is so they have to come through insectoid customs first before they're allowed into this area, onto the material plane, I guess. The mad scientist that is the architect of this prison has devised a binary locking mechanism for the cell doors, and currently it looks as if cell 7 is opened, and there it is.
There it is.
So in order to release people, the players would have to figure that out. And the pirates have started to take away some of the stuff. There's signs of battle all through the place. There's blood and a pirate flag and an empty chest here. Have I missed anything?
No, I think you've... I think you've hit every point there.
Whew.
So my last question to you, are you happy with this map?
Now I am, yeah. It took me a while. I think it really was the last 40 minutes before I was starting to feel like I'm going to get where I want to be with the map. And I think I finally did get there, though.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful map. All right, Till. Let's look at your map, if you please.
Yes, sir. Okay. So as I said before, my approach is that this is kind of a prison, like Klondike, where a whole city was built around gold mining. This is a city that is built around an underground prison. So to reflect the city aspect, I've created a first level that is actually the city, which has the jailers in where you can rest up if you want to visit prisoners, or if you're bringing new prisoners to town. We have the market center. We have the black market hideout, because I believe that wherever a prison is, there must be a black market. Then we have the garrison that protects the entrance to the prison. And I did my best to actually make that city work. However, now that I saw the lighting that LordGodd did, I regret that I tried to do a daylight city. It is so much stronger working with nighttime or dusk. And then you go into the level below, and that cost so much time because I couldn't figure out what I want to do. I had too many different competing ideas, and exactly the same thing that LordGodd said. About 40 minutes before the end, I was at the point where I said, yes, this is where I'm going with it. This is how it works. I think the second that the fourth random challenge hit, and it was the planar bleed through, I was like, okay, now I know how to make that map. But until then, I was struggling a lot with it. So let's start with the entrance. That's where you actually come down into the prison. You see those floating islands that are floating in the astral sea. The mad scientist has built this weird bridge control unit that actually randomly shoots those electric discharges throughout the place. So who's ever standing in there will constantly take damage, which means that the players probably will have to switch if they want to control that thing, which I think creates a very interesting scenario. Then we have the bridge, which is rotating, so you have to work out how you want to actually rotate the bridge, because it has 3 settings, to go where you want to go. Now, if you go into cell block A, this is where my hive mind lives. We can see the elder brain that kind of controls and manipulates that place, and keeps the prisoners in check. It also guards our awakened seals, which are really cute. Trust me on that. They are awakened seals. And then we have the astral pirates who flew in through the astral plane. They might be Githyanki or something like that, who are trying to free one of the inmates. So that person must be trapped somewhere here, which creates an interesting combat or probably chase time against time scenario, depending on what the players need to do here. And unfortunately, I was keeping that lower space here for if something terrible like a temple or something like that was coming up. And by the time that the last one, the Astral Pirates, hit, I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I kind of forgot about that place. So that is the one I'm most unhappy with, because again, looking at what you did, LordGodd, with the clutter and the blood and the fight going on and the decoration, it's brilliant. It's beautiful. And I could have done more when it comes to actually adding those details to it. But all in all, I think, same as last time, the mid part costed me so much time that I wasn't able to really dive into the fine-tuning of the map at the end. But I'm quite happy with it. I feel like it is even stronger than my previous map. So we will see how the community thinks about that. I'm I do love, by the way, LordGodd, I do love your map. The lighting and the way that you work with the greens and the purple as a contrast is amazing.
I was gonna say your hive, like the hexagons, is excellent. I wish I had thought of something like that. The awkward angle there's so much tension built up there. It's great.
Thank you.
And that's how two gentlemen politely tell each other they think each other's maps are great before they turn around and shoot each other in the back. No, both maps are absolutely wonderful. Till, do you think it was easier to design an interior map? The map that you and I were designing was an island with buildings on it. Do you think that makes a difference?
It would have made a difference if the city wasn't a part of it, because then we could have focused completely on the interior and the layout. Having that city combined with a prison was, from the get-go, you knew that you have to build something that is on a cityscape, or at least a part of the city, which is something above ground, and then you probably have to go either like into the rooms layout of a prison, because it could have been, if it wasn't the hive thing suddenly showing up, thinking about a prison could have been in a garrison or a fort or something in the sewers or whatsoever. But it created that split where you have to think about two different maps, actually. You have to create a city map, and then you have to create an interior map. And that was the complicated part for this challenge, I think.
There you go.
I think
LordGodd?
I was going to say about the city part is that instantly, as soon as we knew that it was that a city was an element, but then there was this prison aspect to it, it had to be this tiny vignette of the city for me. I had to close in on one little street and try and ignore that city scale, because that would have been it would have been too hard for me to deal with.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. Although I feared the community where I was like, well, if I just do, I don't know, the entrance to the cave and a few buildings next to it, the community will punish me for saying that's not a city. And I was like, oh, okay, I will do more of that city.
There you are. Gentlemen, let's switch as we come to the end of tonight's live stream.
Yep.
And all that remains is for me to say thank you to both of you for participating in tonight's map battle madness, and for making some beautiful and wonderful maps. As well as to thank all of you for watching and staying with us all the way through to the end, and for casting your votes and for creating this insane map requirement of pirates, planes, mad scientists, puzzles. It really is something that belongs in an insane hive mind prison. I think that was absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And to remind you to please go and vote from tomorrow, as you will be able to see both maps loaded up on the website. Cast your votes for whom you think should be crowned the champion of 2022. And we will make that announcement next week, Thursday evening at 6 p.m. UTC on the same YouTube channel. And we will see just who you think designed the better of the two city maps. And I think, any last thoughts from yourself, LordGodd?
This was great fun. The next person in line definitely should take up the challenge. It's excellent.
Do you have someone that you would like to challenge?
There are lots of people in the community that I would love to see play this game. Like a few names that spring to mind are Incubus and Ava and Battle Sauce. They all make incredible stuff, but there's lots of other artists.
Absolutely. And there will be a community challenge later on in the year where they could step up and produce a map in 3 hours and then suddenly be sitting where one of you will be sitting, because the other one will be defending the title. Till, any last thoughts from yourself?
I had so much fun. Thank you, everyone. Also, thank you for the amazing questions.
Yep.
LordGodd, thank you for for doing that with me, and Guy, thank you for being our moderator. That was amazing. I just want to say I am currently unlocking the voting. So in the next 10 minutes, voting will be available at dungeonfog.com/mapbattlemadness. So if you want to cast your vote right after the stream, go ahead. I'm almost finished. I'm just writing up the challenges that you threw at us. And if you check in a second, then it will be available already. Tomorrow I will upload the 2 maps so you can compare them, and there will be a share link with them so you can actually take those maps and investigate them in detail. The voting will be open until next week when we have the award ceremony, and we don't know who's going to win because the voting will be closed during the stream. So we will see who's going to win.
Indeed. And it's all in your hands. All right. In which case then, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you and yours the very happiest of map making. Goodbye.